All right. So we should be live now. How's everyone doing today? Give everyone a chance to come in. A little bit of a midday stream today. I am still sick, a little bit recovering from Collecticon, but I'm feeling a little bit better. And I thought this would be fun to at least do for like an hour or so, probably, or as long as I feel up to it. I'm tired of just like laying in bed and doing nothing and not being productive. So I got back from Collecticon. Nick and I, old school, drove back. When did we get in? I think we drove back Monday. Got in late Monday night. I do not recommend people driving 15 hours. It was quite tiring. It was definitely cheers to Nick for being the one driving. But CollectCon was an absolute blast. So fun. You know, a big thank you to Rusty for having us, for TCA Gaming, for having some of us over to his house and just showing us a really great time on the first day. And big thanks to, you know, everyone that I was hanging out with and the people, the four people I stayed with, or three, I guess. But, you know, Zach Jemmett hung out with us a bunch, as well as Pokemon Radar John. It was great to meet you in person. And Nick and Ray and Dan were really super fun to hang out with. Also, big shout out to all the people that I met. Too many people to count, from the Discord, from the Patreon, from the channel. Was awesome meeting all of you in person. I hope that we continue to meet in person at some of these events. Also, next time, be fun to like do a little bit of a party, hopefully, you know, with you know, people who've sort of like become friends through this channel or know each other. I think that would be fun to do that. So maybe we'll figure out something in Denver. Swami will host that party. No, just joking. But I am going to go to Denver. I think Nick is going to California as well, to Long Beach, but I won't be going to that one. But yeah, if you guys have any questions or anything, I mean, the topic I wanted to start with today. So I talked to some guys from the Discord who were there in person, and we had a conversation that, you know, they were just sort of asking me, like, basically, is this all going to collapse? You know, what do I think? Maybe a little bit of anxiety, a little bit of worry around the amount of money that they're spending in this hobby. You know, we've had, you know, Dan, who obviously is wonderful and my Patreon partner. You know, he and I made a video on this channel where, you know, I was probably a bit pretty neutral on the subject in the middle. And you know, Dan he's here in the chat. I don't want to put words into his mouth, but I think, you know, a bit pessimistic on 95% of slabs or something, or 91% of slabs, or these types of things. So, you know, leaving room for some cards to retain value or go up in value, but that he still feels like a lot of the hobby is probably inflated in value and all that type of stuff. You know, and I think that if you're anxious about, it was a really good conversation with these guys. These guys are really smart guys, you know, very market savvy, very engaged in the market. And, you know, they asked this question of just sort of, you know, what do you think about Dan's take about that feeling that, you know, and putting Dan aside, maybe some broader feeling out there that you know, we've got a long way to go down, or that everything's going to continue to go down, or these types of things. And, you know, at the end of the day, right, like I can't predict the future. No one can predict the future. And that's part of why that anxiety is there. But that was always the case the entire last 3 years. Okay. And so all of this is normal parts of ups and down cycles in market from a psychological perspective. Okay. And I really think it's wise to think of it that way, because nobody can ever answer that question. And if you are looking for 100% certainty that your cards aren't going to lose 60 to 70% of their value over time, aren't eventually going to not be, aren't eventually, or are eventually not going to be worth very much, like, investing broadly is going to be difficult for you, because even in the most blue chip of blue chip, there's always a chance that a company is going to go to zero, that the real estate you buy is going to see some terrible weather event, or some black swan event. There's always risk in everything. And I think it's more about enjoying yourself and finding consistency and stability and feeling sort of comfortable with the ups and downs of things, rather than looking for or craving some sort of certainty in what you do. And I think, unfortunately, influencers in this space at times have probably given people too much comfort or certainty, and overstate what they're capable of predicting. I'll put it that way. And that's very mild. That's changed now. We had lots and lots of like guarantee it's going to go up channel, just hold it. A few years, you'll definitely make money. There's a lot more pessimism now. And all of that is just normal market cycles. When everything is going up, you're going to get a lot of people who develop overconfidence in themselves and their ability to predict the future, and then start, if they've made a lot of money, they start predicting the future for other people. These are not bad guys, by the way. This is just natural. It's normal. What you can do is you can study markets. You can study the supply and demand fundamentals. The deeper you are in data and knowledge, and the more that's guiding your decision making in this or any other hobby, the better you're going to do. But that does not mean, like, I could absolutely crush everything in Pokemon and make all the right best decisions, but if the market doesn't grow overall from here, and doesn't ever double triple in size somewhere down the road, investing, i.e. holding an item and never selling it, not flipping, not reselling, which is different, you're not going to make a lot of money. You're not going to make considerable money. When I made a lot of money in this hobby, yes, it was because, I was reselling and flipping a lot and getting capital so that I could put it into bigger cards. Yes, it was because I believe I studied the pop reports. I studied the price history. It's why I was able to, pick certain eras and generations and cards that ended up going up more than others and ended up retracing less than others. Like, that stuff is going to matter. But if the overall market sentiment and direction, like, none of us can really control. I mean, obviously big influencers can have some control and some, short-term control. But at the end of the day, it's really like, how much do people like this stuff? When people stop being able to make huge profits again, do people get bored and do they leave? Or do people find ways to enjoy the hobby and continue to engage in the hobby despite not being able to stonk or make a lot of money quickly? Personally, I think a lot of the people still here right now really enjoy it, really like it. These guys that I talk to, I don't think that they're here primarily to make a huge amount of money. I think that they don't want to lose a lot of money, which I think is a more normal sentiment for most collectors. It's like, I really want to buy this stuff, but I don't want to buy this $2,000 card that I really, really want, and then it go down to like $200, because $2,000 is a lot of money to me. For people like that, I cannot make that decision for you. That's a tough decision. It depends on your personal financial situation, and it depends on, your comfort level with collecting things and having a lot of your money in collectibles versus having it in more traditional investments. And there really is no right or wrong answer for the majority of people, because money is not the most important thing in life, right? I mean, far, far, far from it. The most important things in life are feeling engaged, feeling alive. And that can come from your relationships. Come from your relationships. It can come from a job or your work or a hobby or a passion of yours, feeling engaged, feeling meaning, feeling content and peaceful and happy, all those types of things. And money obviously plays a role in a lot of in a lot of those, in you being able to do a lot of those things or functioning, but it's not the primary and most important thing. And you certainly don't need infinite money. And so I think a lot of people in this space now, they really enjoy this. They really enjoy the friendships. They really enjoy the cards. I really enjoy the friendships and the cards. Okay. Um, and so the risk reward is there for me. I continue to buy. I continue to look at certain things, and I continue to be hopeful or optimistic on the market remaining, reasonably strong like it's been. And I think the market right now is very strong, continues to be very strong. And I base that off of, sales volume has decreased a lot from the main, what I, talked endlessly on this channel about, like an intense mania, but like the interest, the engagement, how much people care about this stuff. When people are anxious, and these people, these friends at Collecticon ask me these questions, it's because they really care and they really want to collect. It's not because they're desperate to make money and they're looking at this as their primary source. They want me to say, you're allowed to keep collecting, and you're not going to be stupid, and you're not going to lose a lot of money doing it. As I said, of course, nobody can say that with utmost certainty, but even just the fact that that is your psychology, that is your impulse, shows that you are being very reasonable, and you should trust yourself. Let yourself enjoy the hobby. The other thing I'd say is, like, stop obsessing about money so much to the point that it's not helpful. So I think doing all of your analysis, and I love talking about the market and talking about the money and all this. I think it's part of what I enjoy about hobbies and collecting is the market, the economics of it. It's fascinating to me. Um, but there can come a point where you thinking about that isn't actually helping you make better decisions, but it's just making you anxious and nervous about decisions you've already made. I think that's when you should put the phone down, put the YouTube channels down, take a break, spend some time with your cards, enjoy the hobby. The hobby is very likely going to be here for a very long time. And there's just no rush and no worry. So that's what I'd say. And going back to that earlier psychology point I was making is, like, it's amazing, right? How quickly, and this is what we talked about irrational pessimism and irrational optimism or exuberance. It's amazing how quickly, just in the series of 6-8 months, people's mentality and mindset can so quickly shift from positive to negative. And it can even happen in like a day or two. I mean, we see in the stock market right now, there's just a lot, like, try not to get caught up in emotion. Try to just focus on the numbers, take a deep breath, relax, enjoy yourself, spend within your means. The same stuff we've talked about the entire time. If you have done that the entire time, you're probably in a really good position right now, in really good shape. You probably have a lot of cards and a collection that you really enjoy, that you did a lot of research into, that you feel pretty good about, and you're probably not in an uncomfortable, position in terms of your spending, where you're not forced to sell now or forced to sell things you don't want to sell, all that sort of thing. So that strategy will work for anyone. It's sort of a universal strategy, but you have to figure it for every single person out there. Everyone is in a different financial position, and everyone likes this stuff, different degrees. Like, I happen to really, really like this stuff. There are probably some people who like it even more than me. And when I say like it, I just mean, like, collecting brings them even more happiness, even more important to their life. And there's some people that it's less about that. It was more about making money. It's more about making profit. No one should feel any shame, but it's just important to reflect on, because that's gonna go into how much risk you're willing to sort of take on. All right. So let's see. We got some people in here now. If people want to ask some questions about the market, have a conversation back and forth about what I was just talking about, if anyone wants to jump on the stream, would love to talk to some people. you can let me pull up my Instagram. You can hit me up on Instagram, Pokenomics_, if you want to jump on the stream. Be happy to have some people on. This weekend though, I will do a more official call-in show, like we did before, because I just think that's really super fun, and it just gives everyone a chance to hear from a lot of other people and hear a lot of other people's opinions that you may not normally hear and get introduced to. So we'll be doing that. I don't have a time for you guys yet, but I'll let you know as soon as I can. Let's see what people are talking about in the chat. So people are talking about inflation, and yeah, the economic inflation data today. The market definitely took a hit on that. Let's see. And sorry about my sniffles and my sickness. I'm still battling something. Hopefully it's not COVID. Let's see. I did test myself a couple of times, but as everyone knows, those tests are not like completely foolproof. I was negative both times. Beidou says, question, how much do you feel like the Pokemon company cares about the secondary market? Oh, let me put the question up so you guys can see it. How much do you feel like the Pokemon company cares about the secondary market? Do you feel like there should be more or less care given by them? I don't know the answer to that. I think it's probably changing. And when we talk about the secondary market, let's talk about like, resellers, investments, those types of things, like investors, speculators. I think Pokemon is a business and is going to care most about probably within sort of ethical boundaries, because I'm sure, I would imagine the Pokemon company is probably a pretty ethical company. I would hope that they're going to, care primarily about the players and about the collectors, not people trying to flip and resell. However, I think that now that there are more people doing that, there are more people interested in that. There are more people and there are more people broadly looking to collect. And, I personally wouldn't be shocked if in the next like 5 to 10 years, we start to see some serialized stuff, maybe not from Pokemon itself, and maybe Pokemon partners with Fanatics or Topps, or it wouldn't surprise me. It also wouldn't shock me if they did a little bit of that in their own sets. I think that would be a little surprising, I guess, not shocking, but a little surprising, because it just would be so, like, the brand of Pokemon cards is so not that. But it would be interesting. And do I feel like there should be more or less care? I'm not sure. I think Pokemon's doing a great job overall. I think Pokemon just needs to keep a handle on like the amount of print runs they do, and I'm sure they will. I think that, there's very little negative to say about the Pokemon cards handling of these crazy times. I think they've done a really good job overall. People can complain about anything. You complain and say, well, they didn't have enough supply at the height, and now they don't have enough, and now they have too much supply now. But it's like, they're doing, I'm sure, the best they can, and I think probably are doing a really good job. Pikachu says, Pokenomics question, what was the most interesting item you saw while at Rusty's? What was the most expensive? Most interesting, some of the sheets, the uncut sheets, I was really looking forward to seeing in person, just because those are a little bit more unusual for me to be able to see some of those. He has like a partial shadowless, partial first edition uncut sheet, which is really unique and really cool. That was awesome to see in person. That's a part of Pokemon history, something that belongs in a museum someday. What was the most expensive? I don't know. Honestly, I don't know what Rusty's most expensive item or card is. I mean, Dan's trophies that he brought were pretty expensive. And the one is probably 80 to 120,000. That's a lot. He had first edition base boxes. He has Charizard PSA 10 first edition. Those are all more expensive than that, though. Marty the Martian said he's sick too. Sorry to hear that. Hopefully not too sick. Celtics in 6. Yep. Let's hope so. Got to win tonight. Check one thing, guys. Give me just one sec. Just got to pull up my Instagram here on a message or two. Let's see here. One second. Let me invite. Yeah, if people want to come on, let me know. Just hanging out, relaxing. But I didn't want to make that message. Don't worry. Much easier said than done. But and if you are, this is a good lesson, right? This is a good lesson on what it's like to invest in pop culture collectibles and speculative items. Like, view it as a learning experience that is going to be valuable for you in these fields, in this area, if you want to be in this hobby or other hobbies. Okay. When you're anxious and you're not, and something isn't going well, really try. I always try, because it's very, very true. I try to look on the bright side of that. This is a learning experience, and this is something that like life is teaching me right now. Try to be humble, try to learn from it. When you're feeling anxious or uncomfortable, there's something new. Try not to double down and be like, I know everything. And, these types of things. Try to be open to being wrong, open to learning, open to change, those types of things, being adaptable. Let's see what we got here. Got some questions. Jake, throw these up. Sorry, I'm missing some questions here, probably. My apologies. I'm a little out of it. All right, I'll bring a couple guys on. Pokevest says, Jake, opinions on the prices of Japanese diamond and pearl black and white compared to English? I think there's some good value. A lot of the English cards are going to be like 250, 300, 350, then some are 1,000. It depends on the Pokemon. And you have some like lower pops in the Japanese. So a little plug for my Patreon this month. This is one thing I went over, is I did a deep dive on the analytics of black and white, of every era actually in Pokemon. I compared like the Japanese prices of the booster box, the Japanese prices of the first edition and unlimited cards versus sort of the English, comparing the first edition to the unlimited and then comparing that to English. And there's a lot of value, I think, in that. There's a lot of plays I think you could make if you want to speculate. The downside on all of that, though, is that it's niche, and it now is probably not the best time. You never know with these things, because niche things can explode too. But now, like those types of things, sometimes it takes like momentum in the hobby to like reach those more niche things, or an influencer or someone introducing. So I'm a little bit, I do think there's great value in them. And I think that there's probably not as much downside on something like that as some other things, but liquidity may not be great on those types of items. And then mainly the demand and the prices usually go to like the top, 5% of those secret rares in Japanese. And then once those go up in price, then it allows some of the lesser Pokemon, the lesser cards to go up in price. So just being aware of all of those things, I think is valuable. Who's this guy here? What's up, man?
How's it going?
Good, dude. Good to see you.
I gotta get more centered. Usually, I go with the wider screen angle.
Let me go with the wider.
You're good with whatever. I'm just not used to. Oh, now you can see my part of my messy shelves.
Well, I've got no mess in my background, so
Yeah.
yeah. I came home to like 100 packages that I have to open of just random stuff. So
Yeah, it's been a busy week catching up, and I didn't bring like nearly the level Nick does. I didn't sell nearly the level Nick does, but like pulling things off eBay that had sold and catching up on messages and
So anything to add to if you want to answer this question, and also also the discussion I was just kind of having earlier around just sort of people's like anxiety right now and like ways to not overreact negatively. The that type of thing, which I think is important.
Yeah, I think one piece of commentary, especially since I think some of the negativity was coming from me. Um, and apologies for my voice too. I probably sound a little bit different. I think Jake gave me something down in Charlotte.
No, Dan got us all sick intentionally.
Yeah. I also tested and I'm negative, so that's good at least. But um, yeah, I think as with anything else, don't listen to anyone like fully. Don't take anything anyone says as gospel, myself included. I think if anything, part of my negativity, and I talked about this before, might come as a bit of like self-defense. I have so much invested in this, so much inventory, a 7-figure inventory. My income rests on this. So like being a bit more cautious on how the future might go might be just my brain's way of like making sure I'm taking out what I need to and putting it into more traditional things. But like, yeah, as with anything else, don't listen to what I say. Don't listen to what Jake says. Don't listen to what SM Pratt, anyone else says, and take it as an absolute truth. Take it and then use it to like stress test your own thoughts. And
Yeah.
so yeah, if a negative voice, if a negative commentary can make you question everything you're doing and really nervous and uncomfortable, not that that is necessarily true, but you should just get to the core root of why that is. Maybe you're reacting strongly to that because you need to convince yourself further, do more research for yourself, and decide whether or not you've made the right choices for you. Because the right choices for you are not the right choices for me, are not the right choices for Jake. We all have our own financial pictures and our own goals and our own lives.
Yeah, and I thinking about the psychology from a broader perspective, when there's a lot of negativity, I feel more comfortable with the market
Yeah.
because that negativity is actually baked in to the prices. And so if people are still buying despite their anxiety and negativity, right, that shows you the value, right? So that the value is coming from people really wanting the items, wanting to collect the items before a lot of the value was coming from the stonking, is coming from, I need to double or triple, or I'm going to, and that's a lot more risky. And we see in pop culture collectibles over the last 2 years, it's been a masterclass for anyone who's paying attention in like influencers and social media and how contagious sort of that greed and that stonking and that money can be. But behind it, there's a lot of like friendships and enjoyment and value and loving the IPs and loving the cards. We just don't know where that's at yet, and how much is still the stonk, how much is still that fever, and how much is going to be more of that long-term stable thing. Because there's also people also get bored. People want to leave. People want to do other things. There's only certain people who want to stay and do it for many years or find it as like a sort of a longer term hobby. So all of those factors we don't know yet, right? But that's a much better way of thinking about it than looking at your own anxiety level and making a decision based on your anxiety level. And this is why the majority of people lose money investing, is because they sell when they get anxious, and they buy when they buy at the top and they sell
Buy
at the
high, sell low.
for
Yeah.
exactly what I'm talking about right now. And that isn't saying that we're at a low, like, because you can't time something like that. But it's more, we're a lot more likely at a low now than we were a year ago. And that's easier, obvious to say now because the price have obviously gone down. But like, I would have said that without knowing that, if just talking to people, because remember, for me, it's the psychology of markets. I'm basing a lot of my conception of where the market is based on what I'm hearing from tons and tons of people. Now, of course, everyone's also in their own bubbles. I try to talk to as many people as possible, bearish, bullish, whatever, to try to get a sense of where people are at. But there are lots of discords filled with hundreds of people right now still saying like, it's guaranteed. It's all, so there's still that energy. It's just much less pervasive.
And
Um, so
the market's so massive and broad and diverse. Sometimes when people say, how is Pokemon doing? Like, we all have this thing in our head. We all think everyone else is in our head. And when we ask how Pokemon is doing, it's probably biased towards like, well, I collect this. I'm asking how this is doing. Japanese promos, English set cards, obscure e-reader era, unlimited Japanese cards, Pokemon trophies. Like, the market's so broad and diverse. There are almost certainly things that have peaked all-time high ever. There are certainly things that haven't come down at all as the bubble burst. There are things that didn't run up with the bubble nearly as substantially as the broader market did. So like, when you look for these generalizations on the whole hobby, it just doesn't apply to everything. And people look for these general rules of thumb. People look for these things to just apply to everything. Hey, how's it going, Retro?
What's up, guys? How you doing?
hey, what's up, man?
Very good.
You're looking good with that haircut, Jake. I see you.
Thank you. Yeah. I was looking real shabby at Collecticon.
You just need a little bit of recovery. You're all good.
But yeah, I got a fresh haircut. My girlfriend is thrilled. I'm like a teenager before this, but finally did it. So for those who don't know, why don't you just introduce yourself, quick, Nick? Retrospects. I think pretty much everyone here knows Dan, but Nick did briefly at the very end of the call-in.
Yeah, sorry about that. Sorry about that.
No. Yeah, why don't you just introduce yourself just sort of briefly, and maybe the three of us will do the video together. Should be a good talk.
Sweet. Yeah, I'm Nick, Retrospecs. Got a tiny little channel. Trying to kind of look at things through a more like macro financial lens, but still apply that to like the collectible and card space. Yeah, happy to be here, man. I appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely. So I don't know if you heard what we were just talking about, Nick, and if there's anything specific you wanted to add to it. We were mainly just talking about overall sentiments in the market, our perspectives on it, how we deal with risk, anxiety, sort of what do we do in these types of periods. And yeah, I don't know. It's interesting, like being an influencer, and obviously to some, small one, but like, I feel responsible for other people to maybe more than I should or need to be, but a little bit. So trying to give, I want to be like extremely accurate with like what I can predict and what I can't predict, which is why I don't come out here and I say it's all going to be great. But I also want to be not, I think, not overly or irrationally sort of negative, is equally as important in times like this. So what do you make of that conversation, Nick, or those sort of ideas?
I mean, I think both of you guys do a really good job. I was on a live with Alex and PK, and I was kind of making a case for the fact that I think channels like you guys are important and can help people that might not have like a whole lot of like a foundation maybe for certain things to do with financial literacy. And I think that like I think it's good because like you could go to one of you guys' channels and learn, you know, about concepts like being a value investor or things like that, and you might not have ever heard that phrase before or know what that means, and then take that and then do a little research, and become more educated on, like, you know, just broader financial literacy. So I understand what you're saying with, like, you know, keeping people, or feeling like responsible for people, but I think it's nice to be able to come to channels like this and pick up little things here and there that you can then apply to other markets as well, because a lot of things in every market like operate the same, and you can learn a lot of stuff from this market that you can take to other business and things like that. It's a rough time for everybody, man. I think, you know, uh, pretty much everything is down. You know, consumer confidence index is not looking great. Um, but you know, I think people just got to stay positive, continue doing what they've been doing, and not let the news like sway you, right? Like the news is entertainment. The news should not be like your investment advice. So if you see the news like super negative, like, oh, inflation, oh, this and that and the other thing, it's like, if you have a plan to do daily buys into indexes and you're DCAing and stuff like that, and that's your plan, don't let like some talking head on CNBC like sway you maybe from your financial goals and things like that. Just try to keep a level head and keep pushing through. Not financial advice. So
Yeah, I think, and I think, you know, with that not financial advice piece, you know, I think the fundamental point of that, you know, it's kind of like laughed at a little bit online, but like we really don't give financial advice because we talk a lot about and are very, it's very important that everyone is in an individual different financial position out there. And the crux of why people shouldn't give people financial advice is actually that. It's that no one can give any one individual financial advice without knowing, with good financial advice, without knowing your exact specifics of what, of where you are at your life, your earning potential, you know, how old you are, right? These types, you know, all these, you know, your risk tolerance, like all of these types of things. And so, but there's really a good piece for education. And that's what, you know, channels, you know, like this are about. Definitely very generalist in terms of talking about markets, and a lot of it's for fun and for entertainment, you know, when we talk about psychology and all these types of things. But then also like deep dives into analytics and numbers and analysis of like the act of the cards of the market, understanding what this market is about, you know, the supply and demand side. You know, that absorbing and engaging in that content is going to give you the information to then run through your own filter in your head of like, okay, how much money do I have? Like, how risky is this probably for me? You know, how much do I actually enjoy this? How much do I like it? What are my other investment sort of options out there? You know, and a financial advisor would sit down and do that all with you, and then, you know, invest your money for you, you know, directly actually put your money into things, you know, after you talked about it. Um,
yeah.
Interesting. I'm actually I'm thinking of becoming a financial advisor, like for
For
real.
real. That's crazy.
Yeah,
I'm actually working on that right now. That's funny.
yeah. So I put it off for a long time. My dad's a financial advisor, as you guys know. But I'm thinking of, yeah, getting working in real estate a little bit, getting involved in some things, and then also on the side taking classes and maybe even going back for a master's as well. So I need to go back and take, you know, 101 accounting and all these things again, you know,
Yeah.
to be kind of immersed in the basics and the terminology.
Yeah, I
Uh,
think you'll do great, man. You got a good foundation. And like you said, the financial advisor, like the first thing they're going to do is sit down with you and basically, you know, have you fill out a questionnaire and be like, you know, what's your risk tolerance, what's your monthly income, what's your, you know, debt to income ratio, like all that sort of stuff. And I think, and like you said, like they're gonna, I mean, obviously, like you can call and you can make changes and things like that, but for the most part, like, you know, being a financial advisor is almost like being a financial therapist, and they are, you know, investing your money for you. Whereas with things like Pokemon or whatever, it's easy to maybe get sucked into just like, oh, I'm going down a rabbit hole, I'm having a really good time, and just buy, and not really keep track. And before you know it, you're maybe like overexposed to cards and collectibles. Whereas like a financial advisor might might keep that from happening, or as things rise and drop, they're going to like rebalance your portfolio for you. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I want to do, I'm both interested in that. Although I do think being a financial advisor, it's using a lot of those like therapy soft skills, engaging with people. And I actually want to do more analysis and spend a lot more of my time doing analysis. So we won't bore the audience here with all of that type of
Get ready to
conversation.
take a lot of math if you want to be an analyst, dude. It
Yeah,
gets
but there
Gotta
are,
love
there are
math.
jobs and ways that you can do both of those things.
yeah, for sure.
But all right, what do you guys think? Anything, Dan, you want to add to that little
No, I in the presence of two financial advisors, I just do everything super passive. Passive when it comes to like traditional stuff, and then very active when it comes to this type of stuff. That's my strategy. I try to be as transparent as possible on my channel, and I've been thinking it's hard because like I want to talk finances. Personal finance has long been a passion of mine, and I want to weave more of that into my channel, but you just need to be careful, obviously, not getting into the whole financial advice thing, but just this is what I'm doing and this is why, just like what I do with Pokemon. I think that's interesting and hopefully useful to some people.
education, as long as it's education. All right.
Yep.
A&M says, what are your thoughts on the early EX era secret cards that are regular hollows, like Farfetch, Charmander? What do you guys think of those?
You want to go, Dan?
They're cool. I don't have any. I mostly live in like WotC. Basically, however much Pokemon has printed, way out of the gate, super high. In the middle, it was lower. Currently, it's really high. That's most of what I handle in my business. So that's where most of my attention goes, honestly. Like mid era, it's neat, it's cool. I don't get a whole lot of it, so I don't spend a whole lot of time thinking about it. Maybe that means something. Maybe that means it's a good play, and I get it occasionally. But yeah, I mean, as a collector, I like the cards. I like a lot of the cards.
Yeah, I grew up with WotC, but E series and mid gen is actually probably like my favorite stuff. I would say like for a collector, like the EX era stuff is great. A lot of it's like really cheap relative to like how rare it is, especially in Japanese. I would say if you're like speculating, stick with the popular Pokemon. I mean the Farfetch'd, it's awesome, but I don't think it's going to appreciate as well as maybe like a Charmander or something like that. So, but like the mid-gen they're not the first appearances, and not as many people are nostalgic, but the arts on some of the mid-gen cards are just phenomenal. So yeah, I guess that's all I gotta say.
Yeah, nothing too much to add. I mean, so personally, right now, I think WotC is a little bit more underpriced than these eras. I'm going to throw out a little bit of a statement. But there's underpriced in every era right now.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't really matter that much because like you can go and find good auctions in any era, and it's close enough that it's fairly negligible. So at market right now, I am not selling WotC first edition stuff. I'll just be completely like, normally I'm not this transparent with people. Like I'm not selling my good WotC stuff at market. Whereas at market for some of these cards, there's some cards that I'm selling or a little bit more interested in selling because they have not come down quite as much as WotC. And they both went up about the same. And that tends to be how I do these things. I think people are pretty saturated with WotC. And I do think that if we have another upshift at some point, WotC is going to be the first mover. I think people underestimate the popularity. And I do think there's a little bit of a narrative about like how, it's not that popular. It's boring. It's, I don't know. There's just like, but again, little bits of that very, like I'm talking about, it's causing me to like 2-3%. Like this is how my brain works in these markets. Those are like 2-3% inching me to that stuff. Nothing that would make me like avoid an era, and nothing that would make me not buy. Like there are items that I could get like 20% or 30% under market in the EX era. Some of these good items, or 15% under with the WotC era, I'm still probably choosing these EX era cards. But if it's more like 15 to 20% to maybe even 25%, I'm going WotC right now. So that's where I'm at. We'll see if that ends up being right or wrong. You know. But there are no, I like some of the Japanese stuff, to go to an earlier question, in these middle eras a little bit better than the English, particularly if you really know what you're doing. I like some of the unlimited stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, Japanese seems super underpriced for how expensive the mid era in the English is. Like the same cards in Japanese are just like, I mean, I don't know. You know, the market obviously is always gonna, or you know, seemingly will always value English more, but you know, so, some of these Japanese mid-gen cards are extremely low pop. They look great. I don't know. They seem pretty cheap. As a collector, you know, that's great for you, right? Like you can go out and get RC your favorite cards for like a fraction of the price. You know, it's wild. I think, didn't you say you sold like a Cresselia level X for like $10,000 or something? Dude, I just sold a Cresselia level X 10 in Japanese for like 160. You know what I mean? And it's like pop 14 or something.
Yep.
So it's wild, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
I sold a few like E-Series Japanese PSA 10 hollows, you know, but I bought them at $10 each in PSA 10 and I'm sold them at 170. And I think the guy got a good deal at 170. Like really good deal.
I do too.
But it's a 17X. And you know, you know, so there are these tip situations where I'm not looking to sell all of those, but this is just how I function. When I get those types of percentages still in a reasonably down, stable-ish market like we have now, I'm going to still be moving a little bit to the position, but only because I have a lot of it. That's undervalued in this market. It's way undervalued, to be honest with you. Compared to people are buying modern slabs people are still opening up every day, tens and packs for, you know, extremely cheap for, you know, $200, $250. And then that card I'm selling for 160 when you can't even find the Japanese box, you know, like, let alone make a, you know, try to buy it from someone, you know. So
which cards did you sell?
I sold a couple at Collecticon. I don't even remember. I think I sold a Firo maybe from Expedition.
I love that art. Such a good art.
Yeah. And
the Clefable.
I think I sold the Clefable. Yeah. You know, and it's fine. But a lot of the cards I sold at Collecticon, I got really good values. Like I sold them, you know, around eBay. I sold a couple to people in the Discord for under, but and that's part of why I was willing to part with them. But most of those cards, I'd be super patient, you know, unless you need the money. I just, you know, for me personally, unless Pokemon takes a large downturn, which is always possible, I just think that those are within the market right now. Really good value.
Yeah.
Cameron asks us, can you give me, oh, sorry, Nick, go ahead.
The last thing I was just going to say, Expedition is a little less rare anyways for the E-Series. So like if at some point you did want those back, you'd have less trouble getting those cards back too. So, you know, something could be said for that as well.
Yeah, that Fira card is beautiful. Underrated art for sure. Cameron Tafer says, can you give me some type of optimistic view on Modern? I can't understand why in the next 5 years, Modern will sealed / cards will do well. Too much supply, demand stabilizing and / dipping. What do you guys think?
Shout out Rusty in the chat quick. He was live with PK earlier. Yes. But yeah, on this question, it's tough. They're printing a lot. They're printing a very lot. If Pokemon just continues to boom, I mean, we've kind of pulled back from where we were. If demand stays at or increases from here, if more products, if you're looking at just the sealed side, I kind of think the sealed side and the single card side are kind of at odds with each other, right? As sealed numbers go down, pops go up. So the case for sealed doing well, maybe better than we think it will, would be way more are being opened than we can possibly understand. Everybody likes to speculate what amount of these Evolving Skies boxes are being put in a closet, put in a basement for investment purposes versus what amount are being opened. I've not seen a good approximation on that. I can't begin to throw out a percentage there, but yeah, the case for sealed, maybe the numbers are just way higher than we think. Maybe 95% of this product's being opened immediately. The case for the singles, that one feels a little bit tougher to make. These pops are going to be monumental by the time PSA in the next 2 to 5 years, presumably PSA should be able to open at $10 to $20 per card again. And they're going to be churning through 250,000 the other week. That sets an annual pace of about 13 million a year. So you've not seen nothing yet. If they do get to that 20 million, I don't know if I fully believe it, but if they do get to that 20 million a year that Nat stated they desire to, that's 400,000 a week, every week, for years and years and years. It's hard to make the case for the cards more than the sealed for me. I guess those are my initial thoughts. It'll be interesting to hear what you guys have to add.
Yeah. Do you want to go first, Nick? Do you have someone? I mean, I can probably talk for 30 minutes on this one.
I mean, I don't deal a whole lot in modern. I like it. I think what's interesting is that even though the pops are like extremely high, but I also think that a large part of the demographic buying modern might not even know what a pop report is or care. They just see like a Charizard that they like in a 10 and they're like, oh, $50, $60, that seems, like a good deal. Not, and so it's one of those weird cases to where I agree with Dan, like as more gets opened, like at some point something's got to give, things are going to drop, and we've already seen that like on a lot of cards. But people like modern, they like the demand is definitely there. And again, like I don't think a lot of the people that are buying modern singles especially are super engaged with pop reports. They just see a card that they like and they want to get it in a PSA slab. But to Dan's point about the sealed, I do agree with that, and I think that it's just kind of like what's happened with previous sealed. Like not all sets are gonna do as well. Assuming everything goes up over time, which is dangerous to assume, but like if that were the case, like certain sets are probably going to outperform other sets, right? Like your evolving skies, your brilliant stars, things like that. Not everything is gonna do quite as good, but it's tough, man, but people like it. Like I think a lot of people that are really into the vintage, really into the numbers, the fundamentals, the pop reports and stuff like that, sometimes they can miss the fact that there is massive demand for modern. So I guess that's all I have to add.
Yeah, I guess to start it off, so I had a couple of funny interactions like right in the road Collecticon. So there was a celebration Zekrom PSA 10. Some guy came over. I had it in the case. Some guy came over and said, "I want that card." I took it out. I gave it to him. He paid me $50. Done deal. All right, for that card that they'll just be endless amounts, more and more and more of them, right? Then a few minutes later, a couple guys from the Discord came over. They wanted like PSA 9, level X and a like Vaporeon Hollow from let's see, which set was it from? It was the Delta species Vaporeon. Good card. And they then haggled with me for 10 minutes about the price, asked me some questions about it, and then had a 15-minute conversation on like how the market was going to be. So, to show you the different types of purchase that was, one was like, oh, cool card. Maybe the guy had never even seen that card before. Maybe he was looking to complete a celebration set. He might have just looked in a case, saw a card that was $50 that was like cool enough looking and just wanted like a souvenir, to buy. Now, which card do you think is going to go up though? Which card do you think is an investment, or people are thinking of it as an investment, or it could be speculative? Because if that card's $500, do you think that person would ever buy? You think that person will ever buy a $500 card? Probably not, and certainly not with that mindset. So that market is a $50 to $25 market by and large. It's a $5 market, and it'll be $25 to $50 that card forever if they're lucky, but probably not. It's probably going to go down. And you know what will be $25, $50? The next exact cool looking card that comes in the next sets that person is just going to want to move on to the next thing. And there's nothing wrong with that at all, but it's a completely different market. It's a completely different mindset. Now, the sealed is different. Slabs and do not. I mean, it's just the only thing that we can really point to, and all of our rationality will tell us that it's ridiculous investment or speculation, is sword and shield era slabs, particularly from any of the last 3-4 sets. Like, they're the worst financial purchases that you could possibly make in the long run. Okay, using just rationality. Now, rationality doesn't matter, because and rationality cannot account for, it matters, but it cannot account for everything, and it cannot account for demand. And so let's take that Umbreon. If demand just if that's just like the card from the era and the demand just goes up forever, like that could be a card that bucks that trend. It's unlikely, but it's possible. That Zekrom from Celebrations, almost impossible. Almost impossible, right? Cards like that. So if you're going to do it, go for the best of the best. If you want to do the modern slabs, and you could end up making money, and they could be good investments in speculations, because you're basing it off of huge popularity, increased growth in the hobby. Okay. Now, sealed, totally different. Sealed is a lot more interesting. One, Pokemon is setting a artificial price initially. So a lot of people are able to buy it initially under secondary market, which already puts you in a decent position financially, right? Two, how much can people keep sealed, like really, without getting that itch and opening? We think about all the people who have it stored, all these types of things. It's way more than has ever been before. But let's say Pokemon has a down period for a few years, and which is likely at some point, and these products don't sell. So these products don't move for 3, 4, 5 years. Do people just give up and start opening it? Like, how much gets opened? Maybe somewhere in the future it does go up. Maybe it just takes longer than people think. There's going to be less of it over time. There are going to be sealed collectors. Do I think it's a good speculation investment? Probably not. But is it reasonable? Sure. I bought some when it was real low. Every person I know has some, a little. But that's also why it's not that great of an investment, So
let me ask you this really quick. So your point about the people from the Discord coming in talking about the market, maybe trying to lowball you or whatever, was interesting. Do you think that because certain cards, like, specifically maybe like low pop vintage, even, Japanese promos, niche things that you have to be really, really engaged to even know exist, do you think that what you just explained is a potential barrier to their price appreciation, because the kinds of people going after those cards are more engaged in the market, are maybe tracking price histories more, or do you think it's just like the absolute?
I think the only cards that can appreciate take that level of engagement, and
Okay.
It takes that level of person. And I think that's what people like, because you could hear those stories and some people would be like, well, the true collector didn't negotiate and doesn't care about money or something like that. I just think it's so ridiculous, because, these people who bought these cards freaking are passionate and love these cards and care about it. They just also love the market and are interested in that too, So, and I think it takes that level of engagement. And I think there are very few people in this world who can spend $1,000, $5,000, $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 on something without really understanding it, without putting that engagement, without caring about it a lot, and without thinking about the market. Of course, there are going to be those people, like very wealthy people, who that money means nothing to them. But a lot of people, that's going to matter. And so when you think about something as a speculation or an investment, you're actually targeting those types of people. You're targeting us, the people who care about that stuff, care about rarity, or that type of collector, and are interested in those sorts of things. And you're targeting, like, the Steve Aokis eventually, or whatever, and I don't know how to classify him, but because I don't know him.
Marvel to Aoki.
Yeah, because I don't know him personally, but I think that there are a number of people. Maybe it's not fair to put Steve Aoki in this category, but there are some wealthy celebrities I've seen spend $50,000 who don't know, like, what's in jungle or fossil or base. Like, they don't know which Pokemon are in which ones. So, so there are people spending huge amounts of money, but why are they doing it? And that's a whole separate conversation. I think part of it is it's a business. They're trying to get lots of eyes and attention. They go around buying the most popular things to grow their brand. They make way more than that easily, and then they look smart when it goes up. There's a lot of things involved in that. I don't know how much you can be obsessed and love this stuff and want this stuff if you're spending $100K and you don't know what card you're buying or what the history or the story of it is. It's a little bit weird, if we think that they just really love it, but they didn't spend 5 minutes understanding what it was. A little strange. If it's not for that secondary sort of, influencer sort of brand awareness, credibility, building all that sort of stuff. Same thing happened in NFTs, right? Like Gary Vee called up a bunch of people. People are like, these Bored Apes look stupid, but they all bought them. Literally those were the interactions. You've never steered us wrong before. You don't steer us wrong before, we'll all buy into it. And then it went, moon. So the danger, right, is the good stuff is the stuff that has those people who are like super knowledgeable and into it. The bad stuff is just the influencer, just the stonker. Generally, I think that's a good way of looking at all of these stonker markets right now, and trying to figure out what are the actual collectors paying versus what are the influencers and stonkers paying is important, I think. In Marvel, for sure. We've had that discussion before, trying to tease out, what's going on, in a smaller parabolic growth market like that. What do you think, Dan? Anything to add to that?
No, I think you guys covered it pretty well. Yeah, definitely be careful in markets like that, with the big money playing around. I think I don't follow Marvel at all, but I think some things went pretty high and then have, not unlike Pokemon. I think they've seen some 80-90% retraces on certain things.
I will say that WotC, like when Logan Paul was doing his thing, that will be one of the most popular periods ever for WotC, probably in the history of Pokemon. All right. Modern right now, Sword and Shield is probably more popular now than it will ever be. Maybe it will have another, in 10 years or so, it will have be revitalized or these types of things. But you want to buy things when they're not popular, but they're still great, and so it's just a bad time to buy what everyone's interested in collecting. And it from a financial perspective. So
it shows itself too. Like with the release of a set, generally speaking, prices are fairly high out of the gate, all that hype, all that FOMO, people opening it on release weekend. Historically, generally speaking, if you wait to somewhere between 6 months and 2 years after release, before they're out of print, you can pick up booster boxes for the cheapest price at any point in their life cycle or in their lifetime.
No, Dan refused. I was going to beat him, but
I didn't want to embarrass him. No, I was
I'm trying to get dunked on by Dan.
I needed to lower the rim down to 9'4" to be able to like semi-comfortably dunk. So I was just throwing down dunks on 9'4" rim and panting relentlessly, not having done much active in the past 2 years.
Could you dunk when you were younger?
Never as easily as I should have been able to. So I can't. I have dunked on a 10-foot rim. I'm 6'4". If I go with the right outfit, with the right clothes, with proper stretching, I might be able to throw down like one dunk, barely.
That's pretty cool, man. That's pretty awesome.
It's pretty bad though at 6'4". It was funny because like I was dunking some when it was like 9 foot, and then we went up, and Rusty's like, if you just run a little faster, maybe. And I'm like, I've tried it every which way, and it just doesn't happen. I just have no vertical whatsoever.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
One thing I will add that popped into my head is that to add a little bit more nuance into the Sword and Shield era for people who do want to buy, there are things that have already been graded a bunch because they got in before the pop report. I know I've said this on the channel before, but it's really, they got in before PSA, raised their prices. And so like Sword and Shield base, like some, like the gold dog cards, like those types of things were selling $250, $300 at one point. Now you can get in PSA 10 for like $60. That's a much better buy. I'm not saying it's like a phenomenal buy, but that's a much better buy than buying something that has yet to correct like that, because likely they will all correct like that. Like that's the type of correction you're going to see on most everything, except for maybe the top most popular thing. I think a betting man would say those will correct though as well. I think as soon as like the next era comes out, people are not going, like people are going to forget about some of these things. So
All that attention is going to be on Quaxley, baby. Quaxley to the moon.
We're both on that Quaxley hype train for sure.
Yes, sir. Team
what
Quaxley.
percentage of the people that came in during the Logan Paul mania do you think will stay in the hobby long term, liking it seriously, collecting with genuine interest for years to come? My guess is less than 10%.
Greater than 10%, he says.
Oh, greater. Sorry. Thank you. That's big.
Sounds like a decent guess, but it's completely hard to, complete guess. I think one thing that will happen with Pokemon is like I used to play RuneScape and now I actively play old school RuneScape. It's kind of a joke in some of the community. You never quit. You just take breaks. And like, I know for me personally, I will never be done with Pokemon like for the rest of my life. I might take breaks. Who knows? 10, 20 years from now, what might happen? I like to think I'm going to be here for at least the next several years to 10 years plus, but it's impossible to know. So yeah, I could see greater than 10% as far as like our level of engagement, as far as being in an hour live on a Friday afternoon or a Saturday evening, whenever they may be. Not many people are going to get like to this level of engagement, but I think a lot of people will just sporadically buy, oh, look at that new Scarlet Violet game. I'll give that a try. Look at that new Scarlet Violet card set when they're checking out at Target or Walmart, wherever. So yeah, like the percent is a complete guess. And then like what level of engagement that will mean is another complete guess. So it's fun to think about. It's a fun thought experiment, but yeah, I can't add too much to like an actual percentage.
Have you guys seen what they're doing with the Pokemon Go set, where like the code cards will get you like stuff in the game and like potential to catch shiny Pokemon in the game? I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, because I don't play Go anymore, but I did play it quite a bit back when it came out for like a couple of years, and I think that's pretty cool. Maybe it'll get me back into it. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's a smart move because they're doing it like leading into summer, so more people are going to be like, potentially outside, like more likely to play Pokemon Go. And then I could see that like maybe having, because it does have utility, I could see, people that normally might not want to open or just maybe like are still playing Pokemon Go but aren't really into the cards, like then might be attracted to the cards because of the utility. They're like, oh man, like I have a chance to catch a shiny Pokemon or get like specific items that like I can't otherwise get or something like that. And so I think that utility is really cool, and that could potentially be something that is attractive to people in the future as well. I mean, I'm sure it's going to be printed quite a bit, but I just think that that's a cool step forward for them for sure to kind of do the crossover branding, I guess you could say.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, right? I think with this one, it's I don't know how many came in, nor do I know how much is left. It's just like there's way too many parts of this equation. I have zero idea, and even a way of like I'm trying to think like, do I have anything in my head that could point me in some sort of direction on that? But I really don't know.
It's like how many Skyridge boxes were printed, and then the added layer of how many remain today sealed. It's
I think, and I think it's also like in which segment of the market, right? Because like maybe someday we'll get some sales data from Pokemon to get a sense of like how much was being opened. Like that would be like opened before versus then opened during this period would be great numbers to have, and then opened maybe the next era, but that's not going to touch the sort of higher end part of the market, or even middle end. So it's yeah. Have you ever thought about the different segments of collectors in the market and how much each segment is willing to spend? For example, it seems majority would open packs up to 30. Yeah. I think it's a very underrated thing to think about when we try to speculate on like what's going to continue to go up and what's going to remain somewhat stagnant. Is like there's only going to be so many people who are willing to spend more than $30, $50, $100, and that number can grow over time, and so the whole hobby can expand. And the individuals like us who are willing to spend that money, our net worth could potentially grow over time, and then we'd have more and more money to spend on things over time. And multiple generations could come in the hobby, and there's going to be a certain percentage in each generation who's willing to, but it's going to be the vast minority of people interested in Pokemon for the foreseeable future, unless the game dies, you know, from the larger public. And then I mean, if we ever get to a point where it's mostly like the intense sort of collectors, then you really know the hobby is fundamentally dead from Pokemon standpoint of like actually selling brand new product to people.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting to speculate on the demographics, you know, of who's holding, which cards are playing hot potato, which cards are kind of sitting in more permanent collections. Obviously, like there's no way to really tell, but I think you can get kind of a good idea just based on like the nature of the items, right? Like I don't really think that, you know, certain Japanese promos are playing hot potato. I don't think a lot of like E-series is playing hot potato. You know, so but again, like it's all speculation. So yeah, but I think that's sort of like guessing and just being engaged and seeing like what people are collecting, what's super engaged. I mean, even just in, you know, the Pokenomics Discord, right? Like look at, you know, like what people are buying, what people are going after for their personal collections, what people are like, I will never sell this. And of course that's just anecdotal evidence, but yeah, I think it's fun to speculate and do the research and see, you know, which types of items are going to each individual demographic, you know. And but I do agree with you that there is a certain percentage of people that are continually going to buy smaller, like, you know, $30 to $50 purchases rather than like maybe holding off and then waiting to make like a $200 purchase or something like that, even though the $200 purchase might be a better value in some sense or like hold its value better. People are just, you know, have this psychological thing to where they're more comfortable with like that $30 to $50 price point. So what do you think, Dan?
Yeah. Can you re-highlight the main comment with the question, Jake?
Oh yeah, sorry. Maybe I can find it. Here we go. Yeah,
Okay.
sorry. That was just his like follow-up comment.
Yeah. I just, it helps me when I have it in front of me. So as I mentioned before, personal finance has long been like a passion of mine. So I haven't followed it as closely the past couple of years, but like the number that comes to my mind is like $60,000 a year is like a average or median household income. And I actually just pulled it up quickly because it's something I look at every so often. It's from fool.com, like a finance website. Average monthly household American expenses and how much they spend and where it is, like how it breaks down housing, transportation, healthcare, groceries. And one thing in my mind is like, who are the people buying these $1,000, $5,000, $10,000 cards? I don't sell a ton of them, but I do sell them more than most people, I guess, more than the average person in the hobby. I do sell a fair bit of high end, but I also sell the $20 to $50 slabs as well. And I don't know anyone in my life who's like buying that ultra high end aside from like me and aside from the people I know online. So I do have the thought like in $30, as you mentioned, I know a lot of people who they aren't actively doing it, but I know a lot of people who can afford, hey, go out to dinner, $30 for a dinner, go out for a few drinks, $30 for a night out at drinks. Instead of doing that, substitute in a pack, substitute in a video game, whatever it may be, just a complete consumer purchase. So where the threshold is on where that cuts off, and hard to say, but it is really interesting and useful to think about the hobby, the market as these segments, because I mean, some people work down, it's been talked about as like a funnel, right? Like English set cards are the top of the funnel. Most people come in at English set cards. And then once you're into the the nuances of these obscure 20-year-old promos and 20-year-old set cards, first edition versus unlimited runs, Cosmos foils and Galaxy foils and 1999 to 2000 stamps. You're really at the bottom of the funnel now. And that's where you find that's both in like type of release, type of card, but it's also in like dollar spending. 99% of the hobby, I mean, even the guys into the bigger stuff will rip modern packs too from time to time. So like you're capturing everybody at the top of the funnel, but working down to the bottom of the funnel, that's where you're finding the 4, 5, 6, 7-figure cards. I mean, the 7-figure illustrator, that's the 0.0001% of the hobby that Logan Paul's currently residing in alone.
Yeah. I mean, obviously you do a lot more volume sales than I do, but just from my experience selling, cards in the $500 to $1,000 range, generally like those people try to like hit me up on Instagram. And when I look at like their profile, they are big collectors. So I think that the people that are, potentially willing to spend a little bit more are also like maybe just heavier collectors rather than a more casual or just not quite as engaged. So
I forgot to go back and tie it into the thing I'm looking at too, the average monthly expenses. Like I don't know where Pokemon cards would fall, but there's like an entertainment category that's $243 per month is the average monthly expenses for an American household on entertainment. And I could see Pokemon cards falling there. Or there's miscellaneous at $76 a month. Clearly these things are massively skewed by some amount of people.
Well, exactly. And I think that, right, there's also very few of these cards, like extremely few, a lot of like when we talk about like $1,000, $2,000 graded slabs, we're talking about, I mean,
the market cap is low relative to like
how many cards in the entire hobby,
where
$1,000 to $2,000 are up. I mean, I have no idea how to venture a guess, but I doubt it's few 100,000 maybe, I don't really know, but I doubt it's much more than that. And a lot of people own like 100 or 1,000 of them each, or multiple thousands of them each, what I mean? So it's absolutely that it's good data and it's important to know, but it's also important to know, what's more important is like the liquidity. So for like, anytime I want to sell those cards, I can sell them right now. Now, most of them I can sell near market still. Now, I'll let people know if that can change, but I'm getting like near market offers. When I say that, it's like my PSA 10s, my low pop stuff that people are still chasing, still wanting. Shinings, like your most popular vintage stuff, like it's not difficult to sell. Now, could that shift over the coming months? It could, it doesn't mean that it's always going to be that way. But it's all about, so I mean, the other point here, and I think Nick is right about this, is that it's also not just that most people can't afford these things. It's that most people don't care enough about Pokemon, or don't want, like, they have a few $1,000s they can spend a year on Pokemon, but they're perfectly happy spending $30 for, or $20 and then putting the rest of that into stocks or a vacation or other sorts of things. Like there's only going to be so many people who, even if they have the money, actually, want to spend it on this. And that's why you sort of take Dan's stat, but then you add, it's way worse than Dan's stat. Like it's way, 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 way fewer, right? I mean, who knows what percentage of people who could afford $1,000 Pokemon card is actually buying a $1,000 Pokemon card, but it is like a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of a fraction, right? And it's even a fraction of a fraction who's spending $1,000 on any store of value type thing, any collectible, anything, let alone they've specifically picked Pokemon. So it's a niche, within a niche, within a niche, within a niche. But there's a ton of people out there who have $1,000 who spend their money on these types of things. And so and if we want to look at sports, and see what's going on there, I mean, they have millions and millions and millions and millions of cards that are probably over $1,000.
Don't make me break out the F1.
This one's like $10, I think.
So, But I think what's really important about this is understanding your market. Like if you're thinking about this from a business, like the vast majority of most people's businesses are just dealing with $30, $20, $15, $5 cards constantly. So, and that's the vast majority of what, and I don't know if Mason is here right now, but I assume the vast majority of Mason's, multiple store business is on $5, $10, $25, and then maybe $50, $85 booster box, $100 booster box sales. That is the vast majority of the hobby. And the vast majority of where the money is moving and going at smaller increments, but those are not necessarily good investments. Those are good flipping, reselling, getting them at distributor, moving them for sure. Now, they could go up over time too. They could end up being really good investments. They could be better investments than some of these vintage cards we're talking about. It's just the odds are against that. But it doesn't mean that, and I hope I've made that clear. I mean, again, it seems to go round and round with people who don't, they just don't agree. So it is what it is at this point. But nothing is for sure. And my hope is that all of that modern stuff goes up, because what that means is that we're in a really thriving hobby, that the hobby is now even bigger, that even all of this supply and all of these cards that came out, like it's still not nearly enough to meet the demand, which would be phenomenal for every person here. So let's hope that happens. But I think that that's the part too, that it's we don't want to wish that, and sometimes we have to say things that we don't wish come true because we're trying to be honest.
I think too, really quick. I think too, like, just looking at like macro indicators, like, CPI and CCI, so consumer confidence index, that, like it's a metric that measures, the people's sentiment surrounding, the market, but it's how willing people are to spend money. And that applies also to, collectibles, TCGs, like any sort of, real discretionary income. And it's kind of tough right now because everything is getting beat down, right? Like everything. Are you showing off Snorlax there, Dan?
I'm just trying to get my camera straightened out.
Okay. Everything's getting beaten down, right? Like collectibles, cards, outside of, maybe some trophies and a few other things, stocks. So many things are at such a better price now than they were like a year ago or whatever. And it's really tough to stay balanced and say like, okay, well, I should be adding more to my stock positions, but then there's some really good buys in cards right now too. And it's tough, man, because there's so many good buys now. So many people are dumping. So many people are afraid, and realistically, if you can weather the next like year or two or whatever, and you don't put yourself in a financially precarious position, you might come out the other end doing really well. And that could be true in multiple markets. So, yeah, I mean, it's just tough, at least for me right now, because I'm just seeing so many good buys. But then I'm like, no, Nick, like you need to just continue adding to your stock positions and stuff like that. But it's tough, man, when you see these cards come out and you're like, whoa, man, these are a steal. And I don't know if you guys have been dealing with that at all, but that's definitely something I've had to kind of pace myself and make hard line, decisions of like, here's how much I'm going to spend on this. Here's how much I'm going to spend on this. Especially in a time like this. So
there's never enough cash.
Yeah, it's something I've talked about a lot of times, and in a time like this, it's even more pressing. Don't spend all your cash on good deals. Then you won't be ready. Like if and when the great deals come along, cash flow is very important. I have a certain amount that I'm kind of like fairly regularly doing every month, and I try to match my inflows with my outflows. One of my main outflows being like traditional investing, funding my IRAs and 401ks. And so, yeah, it's all about budgeting to an extent, basically.
Yeah. So Tron says, to follow up on our conversation, if you don't believe in modern singles, why invest in modern sealed? If you can buy a PSA 10 of all the chase cards, no one is going to pay for a case of sealed. So, that is a good point. I mean, part of reason why sports, like there were boxes from like 90s basketball, like with the Gary Payton rookies in them, like things that were like worthless, really went up during this period because there weren't that many Gary Payton PSA 10s actually graded back then because the price wasn't high enough. And with the blow up in sports, now there was incentive to actually open them up. Same thing happened with a lot of like Marvel product. Like people were hunting the seal to try to pull the cards that now, if you graded in PSA 10, would become valuable. Less likely to happen in Pokemon, not impossible, because a lot of this stuff is way more of this stuff fresh of the packs being graded. I think it's an important point, something that we have talked about at other times. But the difference here, right? Two things. One, the two most important things, and I've said it, but I'm going to repeat it again. One, a really good set, Pokemon's price, if you can actually buy it at like $85, that's probably under secondary market already that you're getting it at. Okay. Versus buying like the Umbreon VMAX at $750, which is like the secondary market, you're getting under immediately. So looking for those deals on sealed modern makes more sense to me. Okay. Two, how many people can keep it sealed? We said this stuff before. How much is actually going to be sealed in the long run? And the floor of just the opening experience. So like this guy who came over to my booth and bought this $50 Zekrom, will there always be people who are willing to spend that $80 to $100? And maybe they're willing to spend $150 to $200 on a box that's 3 years old because that's cooler than opening one that just came out. And are there always going to be that people who don't even care what's inside? Probably. But when you start to get to like 300, 400, 500, how many people are willing to spend that when there's no value inside, or there's very little value inside, or, it gets into these, and that's very different than Magic, where Magic people aren't actually grading the cards inside. So in this hobby and in sports, part of the reason they were opening it was to grade in the premium. So a lot of it was getting broken, which was helping the sealed go up in value because people were looking for the 10s, and we won't have that. So you just have to understand all those nuances and then place your bets where you want to, because there's no sure thing. But that's why modern sealed is better than the slabs right now, outside of maybe some of those 40-50 slabs who have already gotten hit real hard. Like those might end up going back to like 100 or 120, depending on how many more. But I think we're far away. I mean, I would want to wait till PSA was down at $10 for like over a year before I would be guessing that. Anything to add on this? I know we've probably talked this topic near to death at this point, but
just one quick thing to add, like in the print level of boxes today is substantially different than during like the black and white era. But the black and white Plasma Storm ETB is worth far in excess of its EV. Even a lot of the EX era booster boxes are worth far in excess of their EV. So boxes are capable of going well north of what their expected value are for opening them. But yeah, we've not had a period in Pokemon until these past 2 years where so much has been graded out of the gate. So how the dynamic will be 5, 10, 20 years from now is massively interesting. One thing that
great point.
Hopefully nobody steals it from me, but maybe it will be interesting if they just do the work. But one thing that really intrigues me is the CD promos. CD promos are a case of mass production in the best song CD, mass hysteria, hype, stonking. Ken Golden, open mouth YouTuber, 20 years too soon. He was shilling those things on Home Shopping Network 20 years ago. Two things that really intrigue me. One, I don't remember exactly what the prices were back when they were offered on Home Shopping Network, but like, and this is getting a little away from modern sealed, but it's just something that came up. What was the price trajectory during the whole 23-year period since they were initially sold on Home Shopping Network? And what percent of the ones being transacted today are like the new ones versus the old ones that were originally graded by Gary? Because I think a substantial amount of them have been graded recently, newer Sir era. All the old ones, I believe, were Zero Sir era. So like, I guess what I'm trying to get at is like, what amount of attrition? We tend to think that modern graded cards are going to have zero attrition. They're going to have a non-zero attrition that's higher than most people think, I believe. It's kind of hard to imagine, but those Sword Shield 50 PSA 10s going for $50, 99% of them won't exist in 10 years. It'll be a high number, it'll be a high percentage, but it won't be 99%. So yeah, like that Nostalgianomics mentioned that the sealed product is a distinct different collectible from the cards inside too. That's definitely true, but like how many people, part of the reason that I sold my ETB collection last year, I had nowhere to put it. I had nowhere to display it. Like, are people really going to have a sealed collection of every Sword and Shield to current box 10 years from now? Maybe, but like how many people can actually display that?
I think all of us are factoring that in. So if people are hearing that, like that's factored into our analysis, right? So that is part of the upside, is that what's good about sealed is that it's for sealed collectors, or you can open it up and grade the cards, and so it can hit everyone. It can also be for the pack breakers, like all these types of things. But the negatives, right? So Dan just said one that's really important, right? The other ones, the other obvious ones, right? It's just people often say, well, what you hear a lot for people who are very bullish on modern right now, and this isn't Alex, okay? But what you may hear a lot, of is like, well, every product always goes up, like look at the team ups, the Cosmic Eclipse, all these types of things. So you have to understand that those sets, people didn't keep them sealed for investment largely. Like nobody thought that they were going to go up a lot, or not nobody, but very, very few people. And most of it was opened, and they were much shorter printed, like probably way shorter printed, some of those sets than the Sword and Shield stuff. So you just have all that working against you. So what you need to counteract all of that, if you want to see the same price trajectory and growth, is just more demand. Okay. And if more demand happens, then it'll be right. Okay. So I don't really understand how that's arguable, like one way or the other. It's sort of like, at the end of the day, it's like, do you just think that there's going to be more demand or not? And if you think there's going to be more demand, then you think it's going to go up the same amount. But people who say that it needs the same amount of demand as those don't understand supply demand fundamentals, and they're not actually thinking critically about the market. So
I think really quick, just to add, Dan brought up the CD promos. I think what's interesting, and this could maybe be too, just because there was less sealed collectors like before the boom, but a lot of I almost don't want to give this, but there's a lot of stuff that's like positive EV, right? Like if you were to go buy a sealed CD promo collection right now, like that's positive EV, even at nines. Same thing with a lot of the Champions Festival, the sealed packs with the 7 cards in those. Anyways,
No.
Patreon paywall. Anyways,
I've actually cracked in the past few years. I've cracked some festival packs. I've cracked some CD promos. It's a risky play though, because like you never know if cases or if boxes of those promos or CDs can become unearthed, and then temporarily or maybe even long term, what was plus EV after you pay the grading fee, after you wait the several months, there is risk. But
well, and it's expensive up front. Like it's an expensive risk, and like at least in the case of the Champions Festival, I don't know if it's just because those are a small print run that they do just for the events or whatever, but some of those cards fresh out of pack are beat, or they're just like not printed great. The centering's bad. They have weird cuts to them. So I'm not saying it's bad to be paying a premium on those in PSA 10 at all, because just in my experience, like sometimes I'll buy a pack and only like one card's worth grading. Usually it's like the Japanese, just because those anyways, I don't want to say too much, but yeah.
I think, right, what you say about, like, this is a video that I made earlier on, right? The point just being that demand, like, if demand grows, see what happened this year is that demand got so much bigger than anyone thought that every analysis you could have made before this year would have any pessimistic analysis you could have made on anything would have been wrong. Okay. So if demand grows enough, then everything, almost everything in the hobby could go up in value. In fact, everything could if it really grew enough. I mean, you could see energies, be valuable, vintage energies if demand got big enough. If every human being on the planet started wanting lots of energies. So that's always there. But then within, that isn't helpful, right? What's helpful is trying to analyze the supply side and trying to predict the demand side as best you can, which is hard to predict. Okay. But, there's a lot of, all right. Let's see what else we got here.
We need another video with Jake in the Pika hat. That was legendary.
For sure.
That was awesome.
Yeah, I wrote a couple of other songs about scammers and different sorts of things that I decided not to put on.
Oh man, you got to do that. That's a Patreon leak right there.
I have so many videos that I never released. Maybe one day we'll just release them all, dump them all on Patreon.
Hell yeah.
Hey guys, do you think EV Heroes is going to be reprinted? Any thoughts?
I have no idea. I that's one of the like 4 or 5 Japanese sets that I opted to buy a handful of cases of. So I'm invested in it. If it were reprinted, it's such a strong set that I would just buy more. Wow, you got a big
oh snap.
Big super chat. Yeah.
Is that PokeData.io?
PokeData. Thanks for all the great content. Love the streams. Thank you. Thank you for the generous donation. Appreciate it.
I've got PokeData.io up on my other screen, so
yeah,
go check them out.
That's awesome.
I've been starting to use PokeData, and I've been using Pokemetrics. I've been using for a while.
Yep, 2 great sites.
Yeah, we've gotten reached out to a number of times, Stan, recently, with people wanting to partner, not PokeData or Pokemetrics specifically, but other people. There's a bunch of new ones starting, and there's a social media one starting that's trying to connect like all the data with like a forum-y social media experience. I don't know.
There's a lot of stuff out there, a lot of budding businesses.
A lot of budding businesses, guys.
That's kind of like, I want to say it's Coinmetrics. That's like a website that tracks crypto prices. But if you go to like any specific coin on the right, they'll have like, similar to what you're talking about, they'll have like a social media feed with like comments on Twitter or Instagram or YouTube, and then it'll say like the sentiment of the comment. So like bullish, bearish, bullish. So that'd be kind of interesting for Pokemon to track sentiment.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely not a floor in that sense. I've talked on this channel a lot about those like baseball and football and other boxes from the 80s selling for $10 all day. Panini, they've gone up now, the Panini DBZ, but I in liquidation lot bought like tons of those boxes for $5 each, a year and a half ago before the boom. So 100%. It's all about, but Pokemon will likely control the supply. So that's where that comment was coming from. I don't see that being very likely. Because I think Pokemon will control the supply better. And it's not sort of like this flood of like everyone trying to make their money and all these businesses competing against each other at once, like sports was, all these rival card companies. But as I've said on this channel, and it's always a good reminder, there is no floor. The floor is zero. Like if there's no one who wants it, right? So, but when we talk about sort of like realistic expectations, realistic floors, I think in this current sort of environment, unless Pokemon prints, 10 times the amount, and even if they did, then probably getting absorbed at like $40, $45, $50, who knows? I think there's a lot of people though. There's a lot, like if people started like opening packs for like $1 each and booster breaking and all these sorts of things, like they're I think the demand is deep for dollar packs right now, for $3-4 packs. So
and don't forget Pokemon's history though. Like I'm not projecting this, but one thing that kind of scares me, the odds of Pokemon ceasing to exist in 20 years is non-zero. I'm not projecting that it will happen. I don't think it's going to happen, but there is some chance. And don't forget our history. just because it happened once doesn't mean it's going to happen again. And that applies to the bullish side too. But like there was a multi-year span where Rocket, Jungle, Base, Unlimited packs were $1 a piece and no one was buying them. No, like Pokemon's lows in the mid 2000s era were really low. Liquidity was almost nothing. Prices were substantially below wholesale distribution prices. We could get there again. We could get there again, and Pokemon could survive to the 50th anniversary. Who knows?
Let's see. Was this the set that Rusty was talking about, or was it Steam Siege or Crimson Invasion?
Steam Siege, I think.
Steam Siege. Yo, Rusty, are you there? I don't know if Rusty's still here. He's probably back to work. What did he say about this? It was so interesting. I want Rusty to make a video on his experience with Steam Siege.
He had not as negative of a take on it, and he was selling much more than I was at the time. As far as like he was doing mass openings, I think there were some pretty playable cards. Yeah. I think the that Volcanion, the fire water type, that was a fairly unique card artwork layout thing.
Yeah,
that we haven't really experienced since or before. I don't believe. Like we had the Delta species where a fire Pokemon like Charizard would be electric type, but we never really had one where something was like dual type with half the card being blue, half the card being red.
Yeah,
like Steam Siege doesn't deserve all the hate that it gets. I don't think.
No way. That M
I'm like,
Steelix EX, that's a banger art. I like that
it
card.
sort of shows how like narratives are created and perpetuated.
Yeah.
And Rusty's take was just super interesting, having been in the hobby and remembering how people felt about that. So I do want to respond. So Nasada says like he'll be very excited to have these combos again in 2 to 3 years. So what I want to say is like the analysis that we're giving here is objectively correct. So it's not if modern goes up. Now I want to be very clear about what's objective and what isn't objective.
Rusty is here, by the way.
He is. Okay.
Hey.
Rusty, tell us what. So the analysis is a risk analysis. It's not saying that it won't go up. And I think people like the nuance there. So now you could argue, I don't know how you can argue against the fact that more people are keeping it sealed right now. I mean, if we want to argue against the objectives of this, which is more people keeping it sealed right now, more people grading, more of the 10s than ever right out of the gate. Those are just objective facts. It's an objective analysis of the situation, and saying that those pose risks, larger risks than we had before, and the fact that Pokemon's printing more to begin with. Anyone who doesn't acknowledge that is living in a fantasy world. I don't think Alex is saying that he isn't acknowledging those things, but like, I don't understand how people sometimes when people hear this conversation, they take it as like gospel or something. So I think anyone coming out who's saying that there's less Pokemon Pokemon's printing less now, people aren't grading as much, like those are wrong. But anyone who's saying that they are doing those things, and then if I come out and my conclusion is that it doesn't make sense to invest in modern, that part could be wrong. Because the part that could be right? So if Alex wants to say, I agree with Jake and Dan and all of these takes that he's saying, but I still think it's worth investing in modern because I think that the upside is still there, even if it doesn't grow as much as some of these Cosmic Eclipse and these types of sets, that's valid. Like that would be an opinion that I can respect. But saying that there's zero risk and that it's the exact same as investing in this 5 years ago and that it will happen the exact same and there's no more risk now isn't objective to me. I don't know what you guys think about that. I think that's where it gets into a little bit of, and so when we say like 2 to 3 years, it's like, we're just talking reality in the present moment of what we can and can't know. Now, if we find out in 2 to 3 years that Pokemon didn't print that much, then we were wrong in our analysis and Pokemon actually printed less Sword and Shield than we thought, right? But if prices go up, then it's just because demand was high enough,
I think
it's not because the analysis is incorrect.
I think I'm a decent microcosm of this, a decent like case study. I've been back in the hobby since 2014. I used to keep like one box of everything sealed. And then late XY, early Sun Moon, I went to keeping, I guess before the end of XY, I moved from a box or two to a case. And then Sun Moon era, I was like keeping 2 cases. Well, I dumped a lot of that in 2020 when things went absurd. But now, instead of keeping a case or two, or I'm keeping 10 to 20 cases of sealed product. So like I'm a decent, like I don't know the customers that I sell to. I don't know whether they're opening it or investing in it, keeping it sealed. But I know what I'm doing personally, and there's a lot more businesses out there doing that, a lot more like online retailers playing that, where, I mean, UPC is a good kind of case study of it too. When I bought my UPCs from my distributor, I didn't sell any for retail. Walmart, Target, they do. LGSs largely didn't sell them for retail. Some amount of people didn't even put them out on the shelves when market price was 200 or 250, holding out for 300, 350, 400. So yeah, it's definitely changed from 5 years ago, certainly.
Yeah, I think what's hard, and this comment shows like we can theorize about demand, right? And we can say, like, someone could come out and say vintage, people don't like vintage, people aren't going to like vintage in the future, and people are going to prefer Sword and Shield going forward. And you could be right. Like, there's no way to objectively deny that or argue that one way or another. It's also not an objective statement that's based on that's based on like what we, facts of the situation, right? So it's now we could say, well, more people, it's a very hard thing to dissect, because, well, we can say, well, more modern is constantly selling, but more modern is selling at really low prices compared to the vintage stuff. If the vintage stuff was all 50, 60, $70, at the same price as some of this modern stuff, would people really be picking the modern over the vintage? Like, and then you could go around and do a survey, and you could ask everyone at the con, which card for the same price would you prefer? And we could really get a sense subjectively of what people like better.
I think too. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No. But like this point is interesting, right? Like, here's an unpopular opinion: S&M tag team sets will be worth more than most black and white sets in 10 years. This gets into these ideas. So he says similar print runs. I'd be surprised. It's possible, but it gets into these ideas of like, and this is something that where like someone like Alex, who's made some good videos on this, which I actually agree with. I agree with a lot of Alex's takes, by the way, just for everyone out there. And Dan and I have talked about this, but like Alex's take, and this is really important, is that some eras, because they're very popular, could be more popular forever. Like, so like a black and white era that wasn't very popular, are people going to discover it again later? And is it going to ever be as popular as the Sun and Moon era? Like, are kids today ever going to choose black and white over Sun and Moon? Is a really interesting question. And why would they choose one over another? Are they going to choose black and white? And that's where, for me, demand just gets so hard to predict, that I sort of put my hands up in the air and I say, I'm just going to sort of watch and be super engaged over time, rather than feeling strongly one way or another. But Nick, go ahead. You were going to say something.
Well, I guess so to your previous point about people choosing like between modern and vintage at the same price point, to be honest, and this is kind of just anecdotal experience too, but like I have buddies that they don't realize that they think that vintage is all extremely unattainable. Like they think it's like way out of their price range, so they don't even look at it. Like my buddy's a Kingler collector, and he'll drop like $120, $150 on a modern booster box. And I remember for his birthday, I went on PWCC and I picked up Kingler PSA 9 and Krabby PSA 9, and I won them for like $11 on PWC because no one was really buying. And I gave them to him, and he was like so excited. He's like, "Oh my gosh, man! Like this is awesome!" And I was just like, I was like, man, So I think a lot of people don't even know that the prices are what they are. They think, oh, it's vintage, it must be super, super expensive, and that's potentially why they stick with the modern a little bit too. So I think as people like learn, and especially now that a lot of vintage stuff is retraced, I think that could potentially shift. As far as like the Sun and Moon, the tag team stuff goes, this is just like my personal opinion, so take it with a grain of salt or whatever, but I think the tag team sets are great. I think that it is really surprising to me that it took Pokemon so long to do the tag team, because like Ruby and Sapphire is where they first brought in, being able to battle with two Pokemon at the same time and doing 2v2 battles. But just the nature of those sets, it's really unique, right? Like it's a unique mechanic, having like two extremely, sometimes in the case like three really popular Pokemon on a card, and those being the chase cards, really cool arts.
Yeah.
I think that era is gonna do great. I think a lot of people really like those cards, but that's just my personal opinion. That's not financial advice or investing or whatever. I just personally really like them. So what do you think, Dan?
That's when we get into sort of that area of subjectivity, and I happen to completely agree with you, Nick. Like everything you just said.
Yeah, I think you guys covered it pretty well, and I think Sun and Moon was definitely printed more. I'd have to look back at when we started getting the official numbers from Pokemon, but I think Sun and Moon was definitely printed more than Black and White. But demand being able to overcome higher supply and more, like, I guess, less age, less of the older, definitely can be a thing. I mean, 100%. Here's a good one. Well, you're getting ripped off. I mean, I think you could get
That's always right.
three Evo booster boxes is probably fair for 2,000. Hidden Fates ETBs, I believe, are still like 150. So I'd want to get 18 Hidden Fates ETBs if I was spending $2,000. Or sorry, 13. I can't do math. 4 Sun and Moon tag team booster boxes. I'd probably take the Hidden Fates personally, but I'd want 13 to get like not ripped off.
I'd like the Hidden Fates so I could sell half of them. Probably recoup some back, hope that they go up a little bit, sell part of them. But as far as like which set, yeah, I mean, the tag team, I like the tag team booster boxes. It'd be one of those two. I think both of them are probably about equal for me.
Yeah, Evo is third for me. So it's Hidden Fates, tag team, Evo.
Yeah, I pretty much agree. I think the only reason I would choose the Hidden Fates over the tag team is just like the increased delta, right? Like you have more to sell. Like Jake said, you could sell half of the Hidden Fates ETBs, make a nice little chunk of change, and then still have like a decent position and exposure moving forward, and then potentially take that money that you made from selling half of it and go buy some other stuff. So versus the 4 tag team booster boxes, right? Like you have less to work with. They have more potential to drop because they're just a higher price for one individual item is just where my head would be at.
And I think like picturing Pokemon at their 50th anniversary, hopefully we make it there. I think Hidden Fates will stand out as a historic set. Like I think we have so many conversations of like what will get lost, brighter, shinier, sparklier, what will really stand the test of time. Vintage, like base first, is always base first. Pokemon can continue for 100 years. Base first is base first. But what's going to stand out in the middle? And I think Hidden Fates kind of like will do that. Definitely one of my favorite sets of all time. Really fun set. Heavy on the hits.
I think Hidden Fates is at its worst right now, potentially ever. So now that's not saying lowest price, because Pokemon could drastically decrease in overall demand. But what I mean by that is the percentage of interest. Like I just think that it's completely saturated. No new people. Like there aren't that many new people coming in every day right now, nearly as much. And they're not even going to Hidden Fates because Alt Arts is all everyone is talking about anyway. So, and I think Shining Fates hurt its popularity. Like all of that stuff, I think hurt its popularity. But as far as reprints, I'm least concerned with evolutions for sure. I'm concerned they're going to reprint Hidden Fates, and I'm concerned that they're going to reprint the S&M tag. But I'm a very bearish reprints. And when I say I'm concerned, it's zero knowledge or, I have no idea. I just don't like it. Like I think that, and I wonder what's still left out there and restocked and all sorts of things. But I think it's likely, highly unlikely probably, but I have no idea.
Were either of you guys able to get any of the Hidden Fates restock that was on Pokemon Center? Because it would be, PK kind of did a video about it saying that like certain modern product is actually having the new code cards in it. So it'd be interesting if somebody got like a new one of the Hidden Fates restock boxes and then were to open it and see if the code cards in the packs are new. Again, that's not like a guarantee of a reprint, but that could potentially signal, like if it's the newer code cards, that could potentially signal that they might be printing more. So I don't know what you guys think about that, but
I didn't get any, and I didn't like follow up. It would be really cool though to see if someone opened some of those on YouTube, because that would be big. If I had to guess, it was probably like, hey, we found a pallet, let's throw it up there or something like that. Restock versus reprint is always like a major conversation with these types of things.
Yeah, I mean, PokeDad has sort of answered this in the chat, and but I think taking out the subjectivity, yeah, just first full shiny, like massive shiny set, just massive shiny set, full art shinies. There's just so many firsts in this set, or near firsts, that and there's nothing else like it other than like Shining Fates and maybe some more shining sets that they do, if they do it with the same. Whereas pick anything else, and there's lots and lots of sets that have like similar types of cards, similar types of arts.
And it had Charizard.
Yeah, and Espeon, yeah, popular Pokemon for sure.
There's just a lot going on there. It's just way oversaturated, and people are very understandably bored. But I can tell you, when that set first came out, and this was well before most people got in the hobby, we're talking like Shiny GX, really, with Japanese, massive hit. Like everyone was obsessed with this. And then people got bored of it. Everyone who was here was bored of it by the time Hidden Fates came out, because it took a whole year for them to turn it into Hidden Fates. Everyone was like, everyone I was talking to was like, I think Hidden Fates is going to do badly. This shows you just how difficult demand is to predict. These are all like the experts in the hobby, right? I don't think Hidden Fates is going to do well because people are already bored with Shiny GX. And they're right. Like, those are the right objective takes. This is why, like, looking back, like, people say really smart things that end up being wrong because demand. Okay, demand's very hard to predict. All right, because at the time people were burned out, and Hidden Fates did seem like unnecessary. But then, just at the time Hidden Fates was coming out, all these new people were getting in the hobby. They were finding that, and Hidden Fates, and all these new channels and influencers and all sorts of things, and it just blew up. So. All right, I think I've got like 15 more minutes in me probably. And then I'm successful first time back.
Sounds good.
Does that sound good, guys?
Yeah.
Anything that you guys wanted to cover, or things that you see or that are interesting in the chat? Otherwise, we'll just take some more questions.
I'm good with just the questions. Vidu did just ask, Pokenomics dinner at Denver Collecticon. You're going retro, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm super excited for that, man.
We're gonna throw a big party at Swami. Swami's hosting.
There we go.
Yeah, Swami's gonna cook for everyone.
He might not know it, but there's probably going to be a pretty extensive guest list.
Yeah, I'm excited, man. So many people, so many awesome people have said that they're going to Denver. I think it's gonna be fun. I'm worried I'm not even gonna have time to like look at the booths and be too busy talking to everybody, having a good time. So yeah, it should be good.
Rusty, if you're here, you should come as well. I heard someone ask you today. Yeah, and bring your wife. My girlfriend's gonna come. It's gonna be fun. I promise.
Bring the whole family.
Bring the whole family.
Mine's probably not going to come with me, but I'll try.
Yeah, I'm going to get my girlfriend, or we already talked about this, to call your wife, and you're like, that's not going to help.
Yeah, we're introverts. Plus, our kids are too young. Like, Rusty's kids are old enough that they could probably go do like a nice hiking trip somewhere. My kids are pretty young, though, so it'd be tough.
Yes, everyone come to Denver. That would be sick. Kind
of want to vend too, but I don't.
Having been to my first Collecticon, so fun, just so fun. But it's all about the people that you're with. So definitely like going with people that you enjoy. And what I want to do, I do want to have like events that everyone in this community can come to, because I think that like hanging out with people is what makes it 100%. So
Yeah.
You know, Dan and I need to be like, we like put out in the Discord, like anyone who's here, come to the hotel, and we got to meet some people, but like we should be more organized about it to make sure that everyone like can hang out and has that good time. All right. Nathaniel says, do you guys think the younger generations will be interested in vintage? Anecdotally, on my end, it seems to be the case, but I think it's an interesting question when considering future demand. What do you think, Nick?
I guess it just depends on like what age the kids are. I will say I was at a trade night, and I was one of the only people there with Pokemon, just because my buddy's shop is, I mean, he still sells, you know, Pokemon, Magic, Yu-Gi-Oh, stuff like that, but it's generally more like sports guys. I was the only guy there with Pokemon slabs, and this kid came up to me and he's like, he pulled out his binder and he's like, hey man, like, would you be willing to trade anything? And he wanted Ampharos, E-Series Ampharos. So, you know, like he wanted the E-Series Ampharos slab. Like, he was super stoked on it. Unfortunately, he didn't have anything in his binder that would make sense as a value trade. But yeah, kids definitely like it. Like my little nephew, I give him cards and stuff, and he's stoked. He's stoked. Like, kids are still trading on the playground. I don't know, like, if it's quite as big as when we were all kids or whatever, but it's definitely still out there, man. So it'll be interesting to see for sure.
Yeah, very small sample size, also anecdotally, but I put together like little. I actually just one of my old coworkers, a friend, his kid's having a birthday party this weekend, and he wanted to put together like little goodie bags. So it's primarily modern, but a few like base unlimited type things I threw in there. Having done that before for like my wife to give away as prizes for the kids at school. Some of them see like, oh wow, that's an old card. That's one of I mean, they'll see like a base unlimited Pikachu, and they'll call it like first edition, like it's one of the original. It's one of the early ones, and so super small sample size, but some know what it is. Some see the vintage feel, but some of them, if you show them like evolutions or if you show them celebrations, they might have that same reaction too. So yeah, it's hard to say, but it might almost go back to like that funnel thing. Every kid in Pokemon these days will be interested in like ultra modern, and some amount of them will work their way down the funnel, both at their current young age and then at their advanced ages, as they progress through their lives, hopefully continuing to interact with the hobby.
Yep, I think the oldest and the newest is a good bet always. That's the most popular.
And it's great how much like the oldest and the newest have been printed, because they're both like really accessible. Not everyone can go out and buy a complete PSA 10 base first set, but pretty much anyone can go out and complete a base unlimited binder set. Some of the hollows still are quite expensive, but like work in an evolution Zard or a celebration Zard instead of that base first played Zard, or base unlimited played Zard for a couple $100 if you have to. A lot of reprints of the really popular stuff.
What do you think, Jake? Just the newest and the oldest, or?
Yeah, generally speaking, I like to look at sports. I mean, everything is going to be different, but I like to look at sports, comic books. I like to think about, you know, sports has been around for so long that like, right, what am I into? Like I was a kid who was obsessed with sports, who grew up with sports in the 90s, collected the modern, didn't do the vintage. Now that I'm an adult and I'm like a hardcore collector, what am I doing? I'm collecting rookies of every Hall of Famer, autograph cards of every rookie Hall of Famer. A lot of that stuff is, you know, extremely old. Some of it's newer, some of it's modern. So I think, again, I'm just, you know, obviously just one person, but it goes to like, you don't need the majority of the interest or engagement. It's the majority of like the higher end, the people who are the more hardcore collectors who are going to spend the most money. Like, what are those types of people going to go to? They're going to go to the rarity. They're going to go to the old stuff, the rookies, the first appearances, whatever it ends up being in Pokemon, in my opinion. So, but you're going to have cards like that in every era, in every generation that I think people go to. It's just going to be less and less, like, you know, it's going to be less in Sword and Shield than it was in WotC, which is already what the market reflects, right? I mean, you have regular hollows selling for over $200,000 first edition paid set Charizard, and your regular hollows and in Sword and Shield are 10 cents. So it's not like the market doesn't reflect that reality already. I think that gets lost, right? Sometimes in the sort of like, should you invest your money in vintage versus modern? Well, it's like modern is so much cheaper that like your starting point is so much lower that some stuff could easily do better than vintage just because of that, So, it gets into one of those types of things as well. Reflexicon, going over every single fine detail of what occurred at Collection, including the super secret stuff. Well, this guy Ray was there.
Got a shill for myself. Nick and I are gonna do our Poke Flips next week. That's what that's gonna be. And I told Ray in the comments we might steal that name for like our thumbnail or the title. I like that.
Yeah, Ray was our roomed with us and vented with us the whole time. It was awesome. Ray's an awesome guy. For anyone who's met Ray before, super cool guy. He's much cooler than he is in the Discord in person. The Discord, I'm just joking.
He's so funny, man. He's got such a good sense of humor. Him and Z and G always going back and forth is funny to watch.
I met him in Orlando, and a little bit of call out. Jake was a little nervous rooming with him, not having met him, but Nick and I vouched for him, and I think you can say we had a good judge of character.
I feel like I've known Ray for like 10 years. Like that's what it was like hanging out with Ray. Like he's been my friend for a long time, which is always a good sign.
I think we've got Ray blushing in chat.
Oh, Ray.
I think it's exciting too to be able to meet people in person, because I mean it's one thing to internet interactions are just so much different, and when you can like sit and talk to somebody, like see their body language, inflection in their voice, and just like really get to like know somebody in person, I don't know, like I think that's going to be cool, because like a lot of people like argue online and stuff like that, but it's in reality it's like if you guys were in the same room together just like showing each other cards and like talking and hanging out, you probably would be really good friends, so I think it's going to be good and healthy for people to meet each other in real life. So I don't know if you guys experience that at all, but.
And I don't know about anyone else, but I don't know anyone that I can just like nerd out and talk Pokemon for an entire weekend. Nobody in my normal day-to-day life wants any of that. My wife is like a good sport, and she loves me, so she listens and pretends to have some interest in what I'm doing and talking about. And but yeah, like the whole weekend of just wall to wall nonstop talking about the hobby, hanging out with like-minded people who are passionate for the hobby. That's what it's all about. Like selling and having the booth. Like I don't know if I'll have a booth or not in Denver, but that is very much secondary. It's all about creating the relationships, meeting the people. And like Jake, I mean, we have been business partners on Pokenomics, the Patreon, for several months. We've had hours and hours and hours of like video chats, many live for the public, some private just for us, Discord calls. It's weird when you meet someone like that, because it's like, you know them better than you know a lot of your friends in real life, but then still meeting them is like this new, like next level of it's really interesting.
Yeah. And other than your snoring,
especially when I've had a few beverages, my wife will confirm like baseline. There's a baseline level that just is there. But like when I've had a few beverages, like I'm probably competing with this guy behind me. Snorlax is probably, I put him to shame when I've had a few beverages.
Yeah, I mean, it is for people who haven't met people online before, like I used to like I was like just like anti social media online, probably a bit like irrationally. And like everyone was exactly how they are online in person, which was really nice. And I guess it's also because like I'm always like I have like 3-hour conversations a day, about our like everything in our lives. So as long as you like actually have intimate conversations with people online, they are exactly what they're like in person. For me, for everyone I met, it wasn't like there were no like weird surprises. It wasn't like, we have to end Pokenomics now because like I cannot stand Dan now. All of a sudden in person.
I think too, kind of like what Dan said, it's hard to find people like in your real life that are like as engaged as you, but just like my experience over the past few years in this space, like I've met so many people, not even just about Pokemon, but that are willing to do like the intellectual gymnastics required to have like in-depth conversations about like anything, politics, existentialism, the economy, like whatever. And I crave that kind of conversation in real life. Like I can kind of have that, with some of my friends, but uh not probably like a 2 to 3 hour conversation, and so it's cool. It's cool to meet other people that are willing to sit and think and bounce ideas off each other. That's, I don't know, I really enjoy that. So
Absolutely. All right. Any last minute questions? Take a look, guys. See if you want to answer anything. And then we'll start to wrap it up. Wrap it on up.
A lot of people just talking about their online personality versus what they are in real life. Some funny comments there.
Yeah. Yeah, I liked the old card shops comment.
Yeah. Cam had a funny one too.
Yeah, Cam. There was a swear in it though, or I would have posted it.
Yeah, I can't have that up on screen, that potty mouth.
No.
Nick did message me. Nick's going to Long Beach probably. He tried tempting me last night, and it's like, I know every one of these conventions I could go to and it would just be an amazing time. But like for me, my family, where I'm at in life, 3 to 4 is kind of like my number, and I just can't do them all. I would love to do them all in many ways, but like I do miss my kids and my wife and my dog and the family life when I'm gone too. So
really quick, and this might be opening a Pandora's box, but I think I wanted to ask you guys like what you think about this. Like, so in the stock market, in the crypto market, right? Like when there's big periods of like extreme momentum, like we've seen over the past couple of years, there's often like narratives or trends, right? So like in crypto, it was like decentralized finance, and then like it later became like NFTs, right? And so that was kind of like the focus, right? Like people are still talking about Bitcoin. Bitcoin was appreciating and all that sort of stuff, but people were more focused on these new trends or technology. Same thing in the stock market, right? People are focused on like ESG and Tesla and things like that. So what I'm trying to get at with Pokemon is like, there was a little the 2016 boom, but clearly not nearly as big as the 2020 boom. Logan Paul opened base set, right? And base set is extremely nostalgic for a lot of people, and that was like potentially arguably like the trend was around like WotC. Could you guys see if like, even if there's not another big boom in the future, but just like 3 to 5 years from now, assuming we see some sort of like organic growth, do you think the trend could then switch from like WotC to like EX era or just other like middle generation stuff that wasn't like so much in the forefront, if that makes sense? Like, could you see like the narrative of the trend changing over time, or do you think like it's always just going to be WotC because WotC is the first, and that's what most people are familiar with? If that makes sense.
you want to go first, Jake?
I think that the way things are priced and the level of like interest and demand and engagement in a lot of the hobby outside of your most niche like Japanese stuff and maybe some black and white diamond or pearl, maybe a little bit of that EX, but like I think it's where it's always probably going to be. I think you're obviously going to see moments where like one era gets like hyped, gets like a ton of attention, but I think that happened through everything. I mean, gold stars have been like the hot thing this month. I mean, there's a lot of like, since the time I've been in the hobby, all of that good stuff, I feel like there are periods where it gets sort of like hotter. I see more people talking about it. Often it's because like there's some big high sales that just happened. I think of it more as non-Pokemon stuff. Like because I think it's really interesting. Because like if we want to think of like Pokemon as like the blue chip or one of the blue chips of like the TCG card collecting world, we're using the word blue chip in TCG card collecting and speculating here. But if we want to think of that, and we want to think of like Marvel, Star Wars, like some of the newer Marvel's definitely more established than Star Wars, but Star Wars like the new one right now starting to peak up, like some of that stuff that like big IPs but is less sort of established, like when will there be enough demand or interest, or do people go to that, or are they gonna like go now that WotC is cheaper? Are they gonna buy WotC, or are they gonna go to that stuff now because like maybe it hasn't exploded yet or stonking yet? Like that's the stuff I'm sort of looking at. I think usually in really high demand periods, the highest demand stuff, the stuff that's in front of people's eyes, the easiest to grasp, does the best, which is sort of to your point, Nick. And then I think the stuff that in lower demand stuff doesn't do the best because nothing goes up, but the stuff that retraces the least is your rarer niche stuff. And I think it's the same thing in any market. It's sort of like your momentum, most obvious things versus your kind of like more niche, takes more analysis, more understanding to find. I'll throw out some of those ideas. What do you think, Dan?
Yeah, I think we talked about it earlier, like the most vintage, the first stuff, and then the most modern, the brand new stuff are just inherently going to be the biggest stonkers, the biggest eyes, largely because of like the volume that's there. Like almost like the mid-era stuff is just too niche. Part of the reason PSA 9 base unlimited Charizard was able to run up to 7,000, 6,000, whatever it peaked at, is because they were there to sell. Like, think about if Heart Gold, Soul Silver right now were to try and pump, or Diamond and Pearl era. I graded some of those hollows. I had a return quite a while back. Pop 2, 10 graded. I actually just had a black and white era return.
Yeah, I watched that last night.
Somebody from Discord, actually, I felt weird and bad kind of selling it, but they reached out to me about a PSA 9 Blissey, and I'm like, it's a top pop. There's 2 graded. It's a top pop PSA 9, only one in the world, none higher. And I'm like, this. I went to Troll and Toad. It's $1.50 card, near mint. Troll and Toad near mint. It's not going to be a PSA 9, but I'm like, honestly, I'm going to list it probably at $99.99 or best offer. It's too much money. I have nothing into this card. Like, throw me a number that you think is reasonable. And like, I think they said $60, which I'm like, that feels like too much, but they didn't want to pay less. And so some of it, what I'm getting at is like, there's too little out there for it to even do much. Cause like, how is that Blissey going to pump or do anything? There's 2 of them right now.
All right. Last question, and then we'll end it for today. Cam, Mr. Bob Saget, and question. I've asked before. This guy made $1 million on Bob Saget's.
This is what I'm buying. Yeah. 25 boxes.
Yeah. Question. I've asked before. Yeah. Oh, Swami's here. Yep. Swami's house. Exactly. Party at Swami's house.
Open invitation there for everyone in chat. Swami just invited 123 people.
Everyone I meet at the Collecticon in Denver, I'm going to invite back to Swami's house. Question. I've asked before, but I'd like to hear everyone's answer. You have $5,000 to spend, and it has to be spent on sealed product you plan on opening. What do you buy with the hope of making your money back? I could get a lot of Bob Saget's for $5K. Too many. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds.
Yeah, I mean, you could get, what is it? Like, you could get 20 boxes, and you get 4 Saget's per box or 2 Saget's per box. Grade it for $30. It's an $800 card. I mean, the EV is off the charts.
And the market's endless for them. Like, there's like, I've had hundreds of people reach out to me at $1,000 a card for that Bob Saget.
Deep demand pool for sure.
Yeah. We're being sarcastic for those who know.
You need that not financial advice banner that you scroll when we talk like that.
Yes, sarcasm. All right, within Pokemon, what are you opening? All right, let's do you can do non-Pokemon too if you have something fun.
I don't know what that was.
I'm actually putting my money where my mouth is. I have a fat position. I've been scooping Bandai for like the past year and a half. Yeah, I think these boxes are way too cheap.
I bought a bunch of those too. The one
Did you?
piece.
This
Yeah, the
one?
one piece. I have some.
This,
Yeah.
okay, yeah. So I'm actually gonna do an opening on this because this is visual adventure, and like the look of the cards is the same on that website I linked on my video. But then this is also visual adventure, and so this comes in like the white boxes, whereas this is like in a pack. So I'm gonna open both of these on a video and see if the cards are the same. Because yeah, they're both from One Piece Visual Adventure. So yeah, I've been buying a lot of that. Street Fighter, Dragon Ball Z, Digimon, Gundam. I bought a Donkey Kong box, a Donkey Kong Bandai box. It was $50, man. $50. I don't know. I really like that stuff. So I'm trying to grade out that population and kind of make a little market around that. So we'll see how that
Yep.
goes.
Buy 5-10 boxes, open them up, grade some of them, and then keep the rest sealed and create your own little market.
Build the market.
Yeah, I'm sitting at like 50 to 75 boxes, so pray for me. could get rough.
Cam did have a great answer for this in the comments too. He mentioned Japanese starter decks. Great in the context of prices today. I opened one on a stream. I did a stream for 1 year on YouTube, and I opened one. I haven't graded anything because I have a lot of the product, but like it blows my mind what like this card in PSA 10, not guaranteed, but there's a good chance if you open a starter deck and pull a Charmander, Squirtle, Pikachu, they're probably going to be PSA 10 condition. These cards are still over $100. So the deck costs 500. One out of 16 chance you hit the Charizard. I don't know what that goes for, a PSA 9, PSA 10, but that's more of a play than it should be because the card
Jake's
should be
like,
worth,
oh no.
the sealed deck being worth 500 is probably fair. The card should be worth less, in my opinion. And the risk with that is they will become worth less if you try to make that play.
I think I graded a couple hundred of those like Japanese starters.
Did they come back yet or no?
No, they're somewhere lost.
You know what's funny is, oh, sorry, go ahead, Dan.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, to that sealed deck point, I think the Yamabuki, the Sabrina deck is like $300 to $400. My buddy just sent me an eBay listing where the Alakazam coin that comes in it sold for like $360. Yeah, I mean, it was graded. I should say that, but just the coin, dude, the coin, you know, and then you get Sabrina's Alakazam, you get some deck exclusive arts like the Jinx and a few other things. Yeah, it's funny. I love those cards, dude. Yeah.
I
love those cards.
Honestly, like a niche answer to this could be like, I know Rusty and I.
If you get one per pack, you get 24 per box. I think you can still, the boxes have gone up a lot, but you could probably still get a box for like 200.
And those are certain ones because there's two different types of the boxes, right? And then the gold foil come in the one.
Make sure you get the gold foil. You're not going to
yeah.
So this one has 10 cards in each pack, and it says gold foil.
Yeah.
Gold foil. So I put some of these in my case. Most asked about card and Collecticon. Almost every person who came to the case was like, I love that.
Cool, man. I got some score coming in the mail. Hopefully bring that to Collecticon and we'll see how it does.
Yeah, I mean, these cards are just so freaking cool.
Yeah, those are gangster.
Like textured, and you get one every pack. So
hard to grade too. Hard to grade.
Value. Yeah, they're real tough to grade. If you get a 10, you're making a ton. Most of them come at like 8s, I would say. Even 9s are a bit tough. I opened like a box and a half, and I was only able to grade like 13 or something. So, and 0 10s. Got 0 10s. I wasn't expecting any 10s, although I was hoping on that Vegeta because that's probably like, I'd probably ask like 1,000 or something just ridiculous on it. But all right, what do we got? Anything else here? Are we good?
Did you answer the? I guess you kind of agreed with retro. We talked about earlier, like the CD promos too.
Artbox 2 DBZ.
Yeah, like there's obscure modern Pokemon things too. Like Rusty probably graded a lot more than me, but like the Battle Academy from last year, it was a guaranteed preset 3 decks, and you had exclusive Charizards, you had exclusive Pikachus, Charmanders, a $12.50 deck or box that came with 3 decks, and I'm selling PSA 10s from that for like $50-$70. There's plays like that even in ultra modern Pokemon that are just like pretty niche, not super liquid, but there's margin there, a lot of margin on certain things. There's always plays.
Yep. And the thing I will say, I'll mention like stuff like this, like when you're doing plays like this or plays like what Nick is doing, like risky because you don't know how deep the market is. You don't know what's going to happen. It's more of like an upside kind of fun, but like, I mean, I've made insane amounts of money doing it like over the last year and a half, but there's no reason that that's going to continue. It was a lot of it was because everyone was piling into Pokemon. So we all went to like the next thing. And if you were like ahead of it each time, you just kind of, and then like cashed out a part of your position, like cash out a part of my Harry Potter, cash out a part of my Marvel, kind of just kept moving to the next thing. There's no telling that's going to be a continued pattern. Like I got a lot of interest on these. I was charging like $150 each, which is like, I paid $60 for the entire box. There are 24 of these, per box. But again, it's a fair deal for what this card is, difficulty to grade, the expense. And now there are like none of these boxes left. Like I bought like a few of them. They're gone now. And they're really freaking cool. Like for $150, and they're really hard to grade. So, but again, the percentage there is really huge. If I sold everything I got from that, I'd probably make like $2,000, $3,000 on a $60 investment. So like, that's the type of stuff that can happen when you buy like what Nick is buying. Like he can open those up. He can start to grade them, sell them individually for a huge amount. They're all pop 1s, pop 5s, pop 10s, particularly if the product is fairly niche. And this is why I go after the niche product no one's talking about that's really cool. You create a market for it. It's undervalued though. Like these things are greatly undervalued. A lot of Pokemon's overvalued compared to them. You know what I mean? So but you have to take that risk. You don't know how deep the market's going to be, and you don't know how long your money is going to be tied up. So, and going back to Nick's question earlier, in a down market like this, they're just like, these may disappear. Like Nick's play on these things, like they're just, people might be just more interested in like WotC or going back to like some stuff that's like more obvious, cheaper in your face, and may pass on all of these types of things, for now. So we just don't know.
If you've got the money to make the play, though, I mean, the downside is literally 100%. You can lose everything, but like the upside is, if you make the right amount of those type of bets, it can be a good strategy because it's like anything else. I
mean, literally everything was a winner last year. There was like my worst performer was Middle Earth, and I probably doubled my money, and that was like awful. And I
like Middle Earth a lot. Hills just had hills.
If half of them go to 0 and one of them 100 X's, I mean it's got to be money that you have to play with. Don't be doing these things on margin, on bet, on anything like that. That's where you get.
I'm doing this right now, but I'm not going to tell you what I'm doing it in, so that everyone. And I'd be shilling up my own stuff, like the stuff I've already sold. I can talk about it in part, because like these are all my collection. I'm not selling any of these. I've sold my duplicates now, so it's that's how I try to do. This channel is about teaching. It's not about selling product. It's filling product.
Yeah, giving you plays.
But like if I go out there and I say exactly what I'm doing, there's gonna be a bunch of people here who go out, exactly do it, and then it will be, it'll be, people could get hurt because then we're artificially pushing it up because a few of us are like bidding each other up and we think the demand's deeper. So that's why these things are best. These are very niche things. It's the difference between that, Alex, right? You talk about modern Pokemon is like not gonna, these things are like, there's 3 on the market, there's 15 of this card total graded, it's a completely different ball game. So even small channels like mine can have massive impacts. Look at what's happening to Star Wars right now with the guys selling that like super refractor for 5,000, then 18,000, and like all of the talk that's been generated and movement on that just from that. So
I think so. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, and I
cut you
would
off.
love to. I'd love to talk exactly what I'm doing all the time, and I have to like muzzle myself because it's just ridiculous to do. It's bad for a number of reasons.
You got to go to Collecticon and buy him a beer, and then he'll talk a little more.
Hell yeah. Yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, I'm a shrimp. I don't really have that many subscribers, but I waited a long time to like do. I mean, I was willing to help people out, like, because I mean, even just since being in, the Pokenomics Discord, there's been a good amount of people just talking about the DBZ Bandai stuff. It's just really hard to get information on, but people like the cards a lot. And I've been like, swooping them for a long time, but I wasn't in any rush to really like grade them. And then I started to see sales data, really strong sales data, and like repeated. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, and so then I started really, really aggressively buying it up, getting as many like sealed boxes as I could. I agree with Jake that like it's risky in the sense that it's like extremely illiquid, and that's why I wasn't like in any big rush to grade. But now the BGS is down to like 25 with subgrades, and it's unfortunate because a lot of these cards are pre 1996. So I actually tried to submit a few at 30. And I couldn't do it because they were older than 1996. I did send a few in at 50 because I saw 9 sell for like $250, and I actually saw a non-prism PSA 10 Go Tanks sell for $200, dude. Like $200. I mean, it's a great art and stuff like that, but it's just fun, man. Like part of it, I was really inspired by like the Hisoka guy who graded out like all the Top Sun and the Bandai stuff when everybody else was like, this stuff is worthless and blah blah blah. I think it'd just be cool to be like that guy. You know what I mean? Who's like.
And it's understanding the situation. So when Nick is buying this, when I'm buying this stuff and I'm spending $60, $70, and I'm getting 50 gradable cards, let's say, or 20 gradable cards, or even 10 gradable cards, I have to sell those cards at $30 to make a profit, $40 to make some sort of profit, right? These are really good looking cards. And it goes back to what we were talking about earlier. Throw a good looking card in a case, people pay $40 and they don't care if it's investable or how rare. Now, if it's also rare and cool and hard to find and all these types of things like scarce, then that's where you see that item go to $150, $250, $400, and a market starts to form around it. Then Steve Aoki starts buying it, or someone, like Star Wars might happen right now. Like people start pushing it up even more. That's where you go from like you bought a $10 card or a $50 card that's now $100,000 or $50,000, or like that's a type of insane, ridiculous stonkage that can happen if you pick a legit super refractor type item in something that has a big IP. Now there's nothing like that right now that I've seen to that degree. But there are plays that I think left right now that are like $20, $30 plays that could go to 500. Like that's more of what I'm seeing out there myself. But will they? I have no idea. But I think if you get out of them, you could get out of them just by grading pretty easily, and you could like triple your money. I mean, just because there's such good value and no one's grading it. It will be interesting to see though how many people start doing this and grading these other sorts of things, and how long that will last. Most people just don't have the patience, interest or engagement to learn a whole brand new market or area. I love that stuff, and I know you do too, Nick. A lot of people do. So, for those people, it's sort of, there's opportunity,
It's crazy. It's kind of like funny and sad when a play like that happens, where you can literally you buy a product, because somebody mentions in the comments, you mentioned the $60 investment on the box, but talking about the grading, like you spend more to grade one card than you did on the whole box many times. It's just, but we see it with every new release in Pokemon. We see it out of the gate. Those first couple cards go nuts, and then they usually go down from there. Sometimes they come back. Black Label, Hidden Fates, Charizard peaked at, it was 10K out of the gate, and then it went down to like 2K. It was honestly getting close to where I was going to buy some Black Label, Hidden Fates, Charizards from the open market, because I felt like they came down too much, and now they're like 6,000 or 7,000 again. I think it's just crazy what people pay. It goes back to what people pay on the slabs, on the graded cards.
So to this guy's comment about the did you do the rapid grading level? The nice thing about niche stuff that you don't really have a whole lot of competition, so you're not in a rush to pay these grading premiums to get the cards back quickly, because you're not worried about like everybody grading them and then dumping them on the market is what I would say. So when you get into the more niche stuff that's really low pop, that you don't have a whole lot of competition in, like you can afford to wait for $30, for $20, for $10 grading. I know the
Yeah, I mean
question was,
these all got graded at $7.50 before
yeah.
they all went. You can go back on my channel when I did videos of these like really early on. And I don't remember the exact time. I want to say, but I graded them this summer before Logan Paul jumped in the hobby. So Pokemon was already booming, but it wasn't like at its full boom yet. Around that is when I graded it. And so I've just been getting these back periodically. I think I graded, 20, 24 of them. Again, but I still have 3 sealed boxes, 3, 4 sealed boxes. So,
Bring one to Collecticon. Let's go. Let's crack that open.
I'm still looking to open some because I still need a Goku 9. I only have a Goku 8. So,
okay.
Yeah, they come out, there's garbage, the trash right out of the pack.
And we've still got Rusty. Apparently, so Hidden Fates Black Label Charizard went from 10 down to like 2, then up to 6 or 7. Apparently, it's back at 2 again, Rusty said.
That's still crazy, dude. 2K. I mean, I guess it's got like the color match too, the Black Label but that's expensive.
I think there's well over 100, if not hundreds already.
Black labels?
Yeah. Yep.
Oh wow.
Like,
okay.
People are playing aren't people playing Black Label like not very rare cards? I'm not gonna throw out names, but like for like 500, 600 right now. Dan was trying to charge $1,000 for his nonsense at Collecticon.
For his nonsense.
Thank God no one bought that from him.
For a
nonsense.
And pop one in the entire world, Glaceon Hidden Fates.
Yeah, for sure. Invest now. 3 fire emojis.
On the hobby.
The way I did the math, so an Espeon, which is pop 2, this is twice as rare. So you should just multiply the price by 2, right? Isn't that how it works? So
he's trying to dump bags on the people. Be careful of this guy.
Espeon auctioned for 500. This is twice as rare, so times 2 equals 1,000. Isn't that how analytics work?
Honestly, like someone will pay 1,000 for that. Throw that up on a public auction.
I saw some perfect 10s in your case on a picture, and you had baby shiny perfect 10s for $100, bro.
I thought Jake was gonna buy them. I thought Jake was gonna buy them. He's all about the baby shinies. Some have sold. eBay buy it now for a fair margin. I don't get it. I'll sell it because the market wants it, but I don't understand it. Oh, Ray here in chat trying to call me out. Come on, Ray. Jake and I know what you did. he sold the PSA 10 baby shiny for twice what it was available. Buy it now on eBay.
No way. Which one?
They bought their first slab. It was Charmander.
Okay, I was gonna say, was it at least like Charmander or Scyther or something?
I think I bought 3 of them for 21 recently.
It was their first slab they've ever bought, and Ray took them. Got them good.
Ray, you dirty dog.
Yeah, Ray said, he was like, would you take a little bit less? And Ray was like, no. And then he took his phone and he pretended to look up the price. No, I'm just
130 point, bro. 130 point. Come on. That's funny.
No, I actually did look at it afterwards, and I think the low list on eBay was like 50 or 45, 50. At auctions, they do go cheaper, but like he sold it for 60.
Yeah, at least I was selling good cards.
Ooh, shots fired, Ray. Shots fired.
No, it's mainly a Dan. Dan had a bunch of junk. So, I'm just joking.
I had a couple that were a little baggy, but
Dan had Screams did well. Lots of interest in the Screams. Beautiful.
I mentioned it in my video that went live today. Like it's one unique part of the conventions that you don't really get to experience, because everyone we talk to here is really engrossed in the hobby as we are. So like everyone knows what the Scream promos are, but I got to see a dozen people see the Scream promos for the first time, and they asked me about them. They asked about the release. A lot of them were probably familiar with the painting. Some of them maybe not even, but really cool to see that first experience, first time seeing it. And yeah, I sold out of all my screen promos that were under $200. The expensive ones didn't sell, but
I want
1,000
to take
plus.
this back just 1 second, because I think it's actually good. So, like going to this question by Brenda, it's like, would I buy a 250? I don't even know what the boxes are. They could be more now. They might not even be available. They're hard to find. But would I buy a box? They could be less. I have no idea. Would I buy a box, let's say for 200, and then grade all of these, like open them up and then grade all of these at like $30 a piece right now? No. Too risky for me. The play, there are already plays that I prefer. Do I think it's a terrible decision? No. If you were to do that, I would just grade the Vegeta and the Goku probably, and focus on that. And like if you can hit like 9s and 10s, you'll definitely make good money. I'll even buy them from you, like, and you'll make money off of me. And if you get it out there to like, someone who's like less cheap, you'll make even more money. But it's not a deep established market right now. So yeah, so I just want to make that clear for people. A lot of the stuff I talk about is to show examples of what I was thinking of what I saw, so that you then can go out and like find those things for yourself, if that makes sense, using the same types of principles. Sorry, Dan, I just wanted to make that like clear for people.
No, I think I had wrapped up what I was saying.
Looks like Top 10 has a question for you, Dan. Go for it. Ask a question for Dan. He just says, I have a question for Dan. The floor is yours.
Might be typing it. Yeah, I guess I'll just continue on what Jake just said. After ZNG and Cam showed this, I'm probably the bag holder going out and buying it. Cam bought his for like what, $20 a box. I'm out here spending 30, 35. So I bought in after the 50% hike. I haven't opened any, but like the part of the reason I haven't opened any, because like if I do and I hit a couple Bob Saget's, I'm probably going to be dumb enough to send them for 50, and I'm probably going to be the one literally and figuratively holding the bag on $50 Bob Saget's that aren't worth 20.
Me overpaying on alt arts. Jake in 5 years, guys. I was buying Umbreon alt arts for $12 in CGC. Yeah, I will say if those alt arts get to those prices, I will be mass buying them, and I don't care. Like if everyone's like the hobby sucks and no one ever likes the stuff again, I will be back in. I don't think it's gonna happen, unfortunately, guys.
You heard it here first, folks. Jake will hold your bags. Jake will hold your bags.
I'm just kidding. I'm not that bearish on Modern. Hey man, Sun and Moon, I've bought thousands of Sun and Moon cards. So we'll see how it goes. I'm very happy the prices I got into Sun and Moon, that when everyone forgot that Sun and Moon's actually has some good stuff.
Top 10's question did come in, if you want to pop that up. And I think it's applicable to everybody. Like work-life balance is really important. And even if this isn't work for you, like it is for me, hobby life balance is really important too. Jake made a video quite a while ago now on like addiction and all that with respect to the hobby. And so I'll answer it from my perspective. And then if you guys want to chime in with your own. So it's easier for me. Like right now, I'm on the clock, and instead of doing eBay listings, I decided to hang out with a couple buddies and chat Pokemon on the clock. So some amount of it is like when I'm choosing to be in a Discord or when I'm choosing to be in a YouTube live, I could be being more productive, doing better things from like a financial perspective for the business and all that. But one great thing about this too, like right now, I'm not sorting cards. But a lot of times I can listen to this and kind of be in the chat while I'm sorting cards, while I'm doing everything like that. Yeah, there's a good one.
Explain to people how you managed to like
Pokemon. The wife came before Pokemon. I met my wife a long time ago. We actually went to the same school, but yeah, I started dating my wife in 2010. I got back into Pokemon in 2014. So before she realized how deep I was going to get into it, we were engaged, and then she was like stuck. So then we got married in 2015 and the kids came, and she's just stuck now. So anyways, getting back to the work-life balance. It's all just however you want to. There's no right answer. There's no one size fits all. This summer, like my wife's a teacher, I've mentioned before, I definitely plan to take a lot more days off over the summer now that I'm my own boss. Go to the water park for the day, go to the park for the day. I actually, not that I needed to sell those trophy cards to like buy, but I kind of splurged a little bit on my kids have been big on parks lately and like slides and all that. I bought one of like the big playgrounds you can get at Lowe's, like a play set, swing set for your backyard. I had a budget in mind that I was thinking I was going to spend. And then I did that trophy deal with Rusty, and I'm like, my kid wants a tube slide and two slide. We're doing a tube slide and two slides. So like, just spending so much time this summer hanging out with them. And one nice thing about really young kids too, and then part of like my wife being a teacher, I work a fair bit evenings after 9 p.m. when they're sleeping. I'll throw on a Rangers game. I'll throw on tonight. Tonight, I know, like, well, it's Friday, so I'll probably watch a movie with the wife. But generally speaking, on a weeknight, I'll pop on a game on mute. I'll throw up YouTube and listen to it, and I'll be doing eBay listings, sorting cards. So like being as efficient as possible, multitasking, doing more things than one at a time is part of it. But yeah, another part of it is just like everyone needs to set their own thresholds for like what is allowable, what is the right amount to do. Was there any reprints?
There was a pickup by Zach.
Zach has a video. He showed his pickups, and in it he bought a Gary V signed Vaporeon, right? I think it was Vaporeon. Yeah, so he I don't know what he paid for it. He probably told me, I just don't remember. Dan
be my dad.
two kids is plenty. Colson, you seem like a great kid, but two kids is plenty for me right now.
Would you like an 18-year-old kid?
Too much for me. I don't even know if you're allowed to adopt adults. I don't know how that works, but sub 18, I think there's an adoption process, but like over 18, I'm not sure that there's an adoption process actually.
We could look into it, Colson.
Yeah. That's funny.
What about you guys? Like, I know both of you guys, it's not like full time, but Jake, you did do the video on like addiction and all that. You spoke sometimes about all your lives, all your engagement with the hobby, and then relationship with the girlfriend and family and friends. And COVID did make it a bit easier for everyone to dive a lot more heavily into this. And you can see some people pulling back, easing back on it as they go out into the world and go out to dinner, do more things in person. So yeah, if you guys want to comment on any of that at all, or not too. I mean,
it's all very important. You know, your relationships, your family, your friends, your job, your passion, your hobby, it's all important. So I think it's just about trying to find that balance and working with your partner to find the balance with them, because you know, every person's gonna, you know, it's about that communication. So, but don't, you know, all of it is important, you know, so it's all has to be, there has to be time for everything.
Yeah, I actually had to like step away from just like Discord and, you know, like video games and a few other things, just because I felt like it was affecting my school, and, you know, like not necessarily like affecting my relationship with my girlfriend, but it just I wasn't able to spend as much time, and so I kind of had to sit and think like, okay, you know, like I love talking on Discord with the buddies and stuff like that, but you know, I had to sit and think about like, okay, like what's really important to me, and just kind of like rebalance, you know, like need to be getting, you know, good grades in school, need to be spending time with loved ones and family and stuff like that. But then I think it makes you appreciate it more too when you're balanced, right? Like when you're so intense into it, and maybe you're being like unhealthy with it, then that to me at least is a quicker path to getting burnt out. To where like if you're balanced, then you can really enjoy it and have a good time. At least that's been my experience. You know, just learning to give everything its time, and sometimes that means, you know, sacrificing certain other things for a while, you know, but it doesn't necessarily need to be forever, right? Like you can, if it's like, okay, well, you know, I'm in school right now, like for me, you know, like I'm really, you know, aggressively chasing this degree, trying to career pivot. It's like, okay, well, I don't have as much time to play video games, and that's okay. Like in the future, you know, like, you know, I'll play a video game here and there or whatever, but it's like I don't have that kind of time, you know. So you got to prioritize what's important to you in life, and sometimes that means making some sacrifices on certain things. So how do I spend less time with my wife and kids?
Screenshot this and send it to his wife, and
Oh
he'll be
my
spending less
God.
time with them, I'm
Spending
sure.
quite a bit less time.
There's one way.
All right. I think we should end it there for today. Thank you both.
I think it's been a solid hour since you said 15 minutes, so probably a good time to call it.
Yeah, man.
Work-life balance. Thank you both. Always a pleasure hanging out with the two of you. Appreciate your time.
Thanks for letting us jump on.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
man. Thanks for having me on. Like I love talking to both of you guys, but you know, I'm a little bit smaller and I didn't want to seem like I, you know, coattail riding or anything like that. But I really enjoy talking to both of you guys. You're extremely intelligent, and I'm excited to meet you in Denver for sure. So
Likewise.
Absolutely. Yeah, Nick really knows his stuff. There's some great there's some great videos on like Bandai, Dragon. Like if you want to start learning some of these niche other markets, like Nick's definitely going to cover Pokemon too, I'm sure, and has some videos on there, you know, talking about some overall market sort of broader takes. But I also saw you post, I haven't watched them yet, but some Bandai niche stuff. But Nick super engaged, really knows his stuff. You know, definitely go subscribe to him, support him as well. And yeah, my goal is just to keep bringing people on who, you know, have good guys and have good, entertaining, you know, interesting, useful things to teach people, to say to people. So, yeah, Dan.
I look forward to your call-in that you're planning on doing this weekend. I probably work-life balance-wise, I probably won't be able to make it live, but I'll definitely listen to it next week while I'm packing orders.
Yep. Yeah. So hopefully we'll do that call-in show. If anyone wants to call in, anyone can be on the channel. You just have to turn your camera on, and I'll, you know, you can ask any sort of question, and I really want to hear from you guys. So the focus of it is mainly to hear you guys answer the question or the topic you want to bring on, and then we can sort of have a back and forth.
no trolling questions either, like that retro guy. Get him off there.
Yeah, save the trolling questions till the end when everyone's already left. All right, thank you for everyone in the chat. And any last words, guys, or we good there?
Go check out Retro on YouTube. Get in early. Get in while the sub count is low. I'm seeing 160 right now. I think we can pump that up a little bit. Like, sub to Jake too while you're here. I'm sure there's some people that watch all these lives and aren't subbed, so do that.
Yep. All right, guys. Have a good rest of your day, everyone.
Yep.
Take care.
See you, fellas.
Later.